Chapter 7:57. Slut Jean Get Lost. Yan Xiaoyi's expression changed immediately. She lifted her leg and kicked him away, rushing towards the brothers in front. No matter how Xiao Jin shouted, Yan Xiaoyi did not turn back. He only stopped when he reached Zhao Bo's side. Seeing Yan Xiaoyi ignoring him and talking to Zhao Bo about something, Xiao Jin scratched his head. How strange! Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a helpless smile as she shook her head. Jin Z, let me give you 2 words. What? You deserve it. Why do I deserve it? Xiao Jin's eyes widened as he grumbled indignantly. I didn't do anything to her. I didn't provoke her. How did I? Before she could finish her words, Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered with the teasing Xiao Jin as she shifted her vision towards Yan Zhan and Bearded Man. You want to befriend group leader? That's right. We want to make friends with you. The Bearded Man nodded profusely, but as soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt that something was amiss. Yan Zhan frowned. Aren't you the leader of the World Mercenary Group? I'm not. Yi Qing Luo pointed at Long Yunzhan. Group leader is over there. Long Yunzhan raised his expressionless face and looked over coldly. Yunzhan and the Bearded Man shivered and laughed dryly. Oh my God, little kids nowadays have such a strong aura. With one look, one could tell that he wasn't someone who was easy to get along with. Ever since the World Mercenary Group stepped into the marketplace, they had never seen the World Group leader speak a single word. Those mercenary youngsters also listened to Yi Qing Luo's commands. It was no wonder that they mistook their leader for someone else. Our Blood Fiend Mercenary Group wishes to befriend the World Group. It doesn't matter who the leader is. What's important is that we, the Blood Fiends, admire your team. Big Beard shouted loudly. That's right. Yan Zhan smiled warmly. You're all so young, yet you're able to establish your own team and develop it so rapidly. You're indeed young heroes. There's no need to be so courteous. Time is of the essence, so let's hurry over to the Mercenary Association first. If we're late, we won't be able to take part in the activity. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she changed the topic. It was good to have another friend. However, they were also clear about what kind of friends they should make and what kind of friends they shouldn't. For example, Yan Zhan. He looked cultured and refined, and his speech was also very refined. But from his gaze and the occasional expressions of emotions, Yi Qing Luo was able to determine that this person called Yan Zhan was arrogant, conceited, and extremely ambitious. Rather than saying that he wanted to make friends with the World Group, it would be better to say that he wanted to use the World Group to complete a certain objective of his. To be friends with this kind of person, you must always be able to protect his interests. Otherwise, once they lost their value, Yan Zhan might very well sell them out in exchange for greater benefits. As for the other Bearded Man, he was a straightforward person and didn't have a big heart. However, he was too inflexible, and he had an extraordinary dedication and passion for his mercenary team. Of course, this was not to say that this was bad. Yi Qing Luo was the same. She had the same persistence and passion towards her own team. They all had the attitude of, no matter what's right or wrong, my brother is right. If this sort of shielding really hurt the other party's team, a second ago they were still calling each other brothers, but in the next second, a knife could be placed on the other party's neck. Because of this, Yi Qing Luo didn't intend to have too deep of a relationship with these two people. After all, the youths in her team had never stepped foot in the outside world and were too naive. Chapter 758. Miss Yi, are you going to take part in the random mission activities? Why don't we form a team? Yan Zhan sent out an invitation. Bearded Man stroked his beard as he laughed loudly. Right, let's form a team. Let's 4 teams do it together, and after we take on the mission, we'll work together. We have sufficient manpower, and our ability is right there, so there's no need to worry about drawing a mission that we can't complete. That's a good idea. Perhaps we can spare some time to take on the second random mission. Yan Zhan nodded his head in agreement. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as her peripheral vision swept past the both of them. Then which team should we start with? Yan Zhan and Bearded Man replied in unison. Of course, we'll start with me. Before they could finish their words, the both of them seemed to have realized something as they exchanged glances and lowered their eyelids awkwardly. After some time, Yan Zhan found the right words. What I mean is, let's start with the most complicated mission. Anyway, we have a lot of people, so no matter how complicated the mission is, we'll be able to complete it in the shortest time. Bearded Man nodded his head repeatedly, but when the both of them raised their eyes and met Yi Qing Luo's face, they instantly felt a chill down their spines. This peerlessly beautiful, dainty and adorable young lady had a faint smile hanging on her lips as her eyes were curved, narrow, and enchanting. She looked so innocent and harmless, but inexplicably, it made the both of them feel a sense of trepidation. If I didn't remember wrongly, earlier young Master Shin mentioned that your Blood Demon Mercenaries group is a Silver Plate mercenary group. That means that your random mission is very likely to draw a complicated great experience mission or some other complicated rare mission. Yi Qing Luo's tone and tone were gentle and slow, not at all rude. Bearded Man's expression stiffened slightly. Of course, the probability of a complicated grade mission is very low. But even if you draw a high-grade experience mission, it's very likely that with our 3 teams, we can only accompany you to fight for this mission. Standing on a bystander's point of view and lending a helping hand, it's not impossible. But I also have my team and my brothers. I can't possibly drag my own brothers to accompany you to do something impossible. Yan Zhan coughed a few times and hid the hostility in his eyes. He smiled gently and said, Miss Yi is thoughtful. Peach snorted coldly and stepped forward, hooking Yi Qing Luo's arm. Her pretty face was full of sarcasm. Stop it. All of you have been in the mercenary world for several years. Why are you pretending to be a newbie? What do you mean? Xiao Jin could tell that there was a hidden meaning in her words. He moved forward and asked in confusion. When Peach's gaze met Xiao Jin's, she shifted her gaze away in a somewhat flustered manner. Her cheeks were slightly red as she lowered her eyelashes and said, The 2 of them want to join forces and trick you into doing random missions for their mercenary group. Looking at the Peach in this state, Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped hard. Her attention was completely not on the matter of Yan Zhan and the Bearded Man's deception. His thoughts drifted to the other side. Cough, cough, could it be? Peach really fell in love with Xiao Jin at first sight? In this other world, strength was the most important factor, and appearance was the second factor. Would a woman fall in love with Xiao Jin at first sight? The world was too fantastical. One must know that Xiao Jin's looks were absolutely not good-looking, especially in the world mercenary group, which was filled with handsome men and beautiful women. That face of his seemed even more ordinary. Looking at Peach, her appearance was delicate and lovely, captivating even the birds and beasts, overshadowing the moon and flowers, and her character was quick-witted and adorable. Looking at Peach's dressing again, as well as the 200 over female mercenary group, which she had established, her family background was absolutely not bad. Whatever type of man she wanted, it was just a matter of curling her fingers. Chapter 759. Qing Luo, Qing Luo. The voice beside her ears made Yi Qing Luo abruptly regain her senses. Her long lashes fluttered as her eyes regained their luster. Earlier, what did you guys say? Did she miss something strange? Why? Peach, Xiao Jin, and Long Yunzhan were staring at her without blinking, and Yan Zhan and Bearded Man's expressions were so ugly. Qing Luo, at such a serious moment, how could you get lovesick and think of D? Di Tian. Xiao Jin hooked Yi Qing Luo's shoulder as he teased her with an arc. Think of what DMO Xian. She was obviously thinking of him. Xiao Jin's luck with women, since he dared to tease her. Regarding the possibility of Peach falling in love with him at first sight, she wouldn't tell him. Let's see how this fellow with no EQ would deal with the conflict between him and Yen Xiaoyi. Student Yi Qing Luo, I'm analyzing that the both of them want to make use of the World Mercenary Group's evidence. Peach stuck out her tongue at Yen Zhan and Bearded Man. Let me explain to you the rules of random missions. The time limit for random missions is 3 days, and the time limit for drawing the mission will end at midnight today. Saying that, Peach specially made a 3-day hand gesture. And the range of the random mission could possibly be in some corner of the West Continent or some dangerous place. Just the journey back and forth would take at least half a day or at least a day. We might not even be able to complete the first random mission on time, so don't even mention about how we still have time and can take on the second mission, etc. Such a ridiculous topic. Saying that, Peach gave a cold harumph as she looked at Yen Zhan in disdain. If I didn't guess wrongly, Group Leader Yen used the same method to coax Bearded Man, and on seeing that our student Yi Qing Luo is a newly established mercenary group and doesn't know the rules of random missions, he tried to coax her to help your mercenary group to complete the mission. Yen Zhan's refined face flushed red instantly. Bearded Man's eyes widened. He was indeed attracted by Yen Zhan's words and was prepared to work together with Yen Zhan's invincible mercenary group. Following that, the both of them saw the World Mercenary Group's magnificent feat in the marketplace. He thought that this group of young people who didn't know the rules would easily take the bait. He immediately followed them. He had not expected. Not only did Yen Zhan want to deceive the World Mercenary Group, he even wanted to deceive him. The Bearded Man's chest was filled with rage. The flames in his eyes danced as he glared fiercely at Yen Zhan. In the end, Yen Zhan was only the leader of a bronze plate mercenary group. Although the mercenary group had been around for almost 3 years, the reason why the mercenary group was able to develop to where it was now was entirely because of his brain, his cleverness, and his gentle and refined appearance. He was able to gain the trust of many people, and from there they could make some small moves. But to this day, it was only a bronze plate mercenary group. Big Beardy was the executive leader of Silver Mercenary Group. He could not afford to offend them. In his panic, Yen Zhan pointed the spearhead at Peach. You are talking nonsense. If it's really as you said, then wouldn't you be following us to get close to Miss Yi and even trying to establish a relationship with Miss Yi? Wouldn't you be trying to make use of the World Mercenary Group? Peach rolled her eyes and her pretty face was full of pride. My Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group doesn't do any fighting or killing. We are mainly responsible for gathering information. In other words, she had more or less figured out Yen Zhan's reputation and the hookups he had done in the past. Yen Zhan staggered a few steps back. He opened his mouth and wanted to refute something. Chapter 760. It's because I know what kind of person you are that I specially followed you over. I cannot let you deceive my goddess. Peach raised her head complacently as a smile flashed past her eyes. But I have to thank you. It's you who gave me the courage to speak to my goddess. Yi Qing Luo. Wait a minute, this goddess, what the hell was that? And this voice, this tone, this expression, what was going on? Yi Qing Luo wailed in her heart. Her sexual orientation was out. Right. Positive. Constant. No. Do. 100. Together. Amen. Let Peach fall in love with Xiao Jin at first sight, to see through his inner handsomeness. Peach's words made Yen Zhan's face turn ashen. His body tensed up as he stared fiercely at Peach, wishing that he could tear that mouth into several pieces. However, Peach remained unmoved. She was still smiling like a flower as she whispered something to Yi Qing Luo. Yen Zhan's eyes were overflowing with viciousness as he clenched his fists tightly. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, the bearded man standing beside him suddenly punched his face. A bam was heard, and Yen Zhan was unable to react in time as he fell onto the ground. Bearded Man's physique was huge and definitely not just for show. When this punch landed, Yan Zhan's delicate little body was totally unable to withstand his devastation. Damn it, Yan Zhan! You even dare to lie to me. If I don't destroy your mercenary group today, I'm not called Bearded Man. Bearded Man was filled with rage as he pressed Yan Zhan onto the ground as he raised his fist and punched him again. Yi Qing Luo and the others naturally weren't interested in these two men's fight. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo's attention was attracted by Peach's find out news. To have one's own network of informants and to know all the news in the continent was an extremely important step to establish one's own force. For those large-scale mercenary groups, they would split out a portion of their forces to form a network of informants, especially to find out all sorts of news for the mercenary group. Yi Qing Luo had naturally thought of establishing such an organization. She intended to wait for the world group to mature a little before discussing this matter. Today, after Peach mentioned it, she had an idea. Group leader. Executive group leader. The Invincible Guild and Blood Demon Guild were still waiting for their guild leader's response when they suddenly saw the two guild leaders fighting each other. He immediately rushed forward and pulled the leaders of both sides apart. Weren't they discussing the cooperation between the two mercenary groups not long ago? Why was it that after roping in the world group, the members of the world group left with that female group and these two group leaders started fighting instead? Raid the Invincible Guild. You even dare to deceive me. The bearded man was aggressive. Idiot. Don't fall for that woman's provocation. Yan Zhan's facial muscles were bruised, and blood was still seeping from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't hide the sarcasm on his face. Those two women are in cahoots with each other. They deliberately teamed up to make us lose the chance to participate in the random mission. You really fell for it and even hit me. Are you stupid? Being reprimanded, the bearded man was a little stunned. Blood Demon Guild's leader behind him creased his brows. What do you mean by this? If you really annihilate my invincible mercenary group today, the two women's plot will succeed. Yan Zhan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the two muscular and fierce-looking managers had fallen for his trap. However, the expression on his face and the angry tone of his voice remained unchanged. Chapter 761. The Mercenary Association has a rule that those mercenary groups who participate in the random assignment of missions are not allowed to have any conflicts with other mercenary groups or do anything that harms other mercenary groups. Otherwise, their participation rights will be revoked. Yan Zhan rubbed his chest, which was in pain from the beating, as he steadied himself with the help of his members. He pointed at the bearded man and scolded furiously, "If you really destroy Invincible, not only will my Invincible be destroyed, even the Blood Demon group, which you have painstakingly built up till now, will also be destroyed." Senior's words are indeed the truth. A woman's heart is the most vicious. Yan Zhan clenched his teeth tightly as the veins on his forehead popped out. The World Mercenary Group. Peach Blossom, 3,000 Mercenary Group. I, Yan Zhan, will be irreconcilable with them. Blood Demon Group's leader didn't understand what had happened earlier. Seeing the bearded man in a daze, he walked over to Yan Zhan guiltily and kept on apologizing. "Brother, it's my fault. I don't have any brains." Those two ladies' words made me believe them. "Brother, why don't you beat me up? Beat me back." "Forget it. You've been cheated by them." Yan Zhan's eyes sparkled, but his face was filled with helplessness as he patted his shoulder lightly. "You must learn to be more careful in future and learn more from your Blood Demon Group's leader." When Blood Demon Group's leader heard himself mentioned, he didn't know what was going on, but he had to pretend that he knew everything clearly as he put on a humble look and waved his hand. All right. Luckily, there's the intelligent leader Yen around. Otherwise, based on the bearded man's blockhead, he would definitely be cheated by those two ladies. The World Mercenary Group and Peach Blossom, 3,000, actually dared to play us like that. I, Yan Zhan, will definitely take revenge for this. Yan Zhan pretended to be infuriated as he clenched his fist and bellowed. The bearded man was fuming. "Damn it! I hate being cheated the most." Just as the two of them were about to punish Yi Qing Luo with righteous indignation, a lady's sharp voice was heard from not too far away. "I have a way to deal with the World Mercenary Group. I wonder if the both of you are willing to cooperate with me." The two mercenary groups' gazes turned towards that direction at the same time. They saw a group of about 60 to 70 mercenary group walking over. Those mercenary groups were dressed strangely and looked like ruffians. At a glance, one could tell that they were the kind of lowly mercenary groups. The leader of that mercenary group was a man and a woman. The woman was wearing a jade green dress and was extremely beautiful and dazzling. The man was wearing a dark robe and had his wounds simply bandaged. He covered his mouth and nose with one hand as if he was in pain. Yan Zhan quickly cupped his hands and bowed to the two. "Fifth Mistress Shangguan, law enforcer." The other mercenaries quickly followed suit and saluted. Shangguan Liuli narrowed her eyes and her voice was filled with resentment. "My mercenary group doesn't have the qualifications to participate in the event, so I can play some tricks and stop them from completing their mission." The law enforcement officer at the side also gritted his teeth and spat out words hatefully. "Even if the mercenary guild wants to remove me from my position, they will need a period of time. What's more, the connections I've built over the years have long been set. The other mercenary groups will more or less give me face. What do you need us to do?" Yan Zhan and the bearded man looked at each other, their eyes filled with ruthlessness. Shangguan Liuli narrowed her eyes and sneered, "Crush her! Let the World Mercenary Group become a joke." "What should I do?" "Random mission." Shangguan Liuli lowered her head as her eyelashes fluttered and her fine long hair covered half of her face. Only the smile on the corners of her lips became increasingly gloomy. "I've already asked for men for my family and informed the Yuchi family. No matter what mission the World Group draws, I will make it so that they won't be able to return." The few of them exchanged glances and smiled as their eyes were filled with resentment towards the World Group. No one discovered that person who lowered her head. Chapter 762. Mercenary Association. The usually spacious Mercenary Association was now crowded with people. All sorts of mercenary groups' uniforms were crowded together, and in front of the Mercenary Association's main hall to receive missions, there was a high stage which could accommodate 100 people. On top of the high stage, there was a huge crystal screen, and on it there were a few big words, "Random Mission Drawing Area." A few people dressed in the Mercenary Association's staff uniform were busy on the high stage. Below was already crowded with groups of mercenary groups, and it was extremely crowded. There were quite a number of mercenary groups who were arranged by their group leaders to wait outside the Mercenary Association for the results. Yi Qing Luo looked around and estimated that there were at least 200 over mercenary groups waiting for the random mission. Among them, there was no lack of silver plate mercenary groups. As for the gold plate mercenary groups, she didn't see a single one. Mo Hanshang saw Yi Qing Luo looking around and explained, "The gold plate mercenary group is the Mercenary Association's distinguished group, so naturally they enjoy the distinguished rights. Their random missions have already been drawn, and they have all left the Mercenary Association to complete their missions." Yi Qing Luo nodded her head in understanding. No matter where, outstanding people were able to enjoy special privileges. For example, Heavenly Academy's class of gods. For example, Mu brothers who could enter and leave the academy anytime and anywhere. For example, Mercenary Association's gold plate mercenary group. For example, now, basking in Mo Hanshang's glory, their seats had long been arranged by Mo Hanshang, right at the first row below the high stage, the best seat. Of course, Yi Qing Luo didn't bring her group of 90 over people to squeeze here. Mo Hanshang had only prepared 6 seats. If there were too many, it would definitely cause others to gossip about it. Hence, the ones sitting at the front row were her, Mo Hanshang, Long Yunjian and the others, plus Xiaobo was overwhelmed by favor to be able to sit at this seat. I'm not suitable. It's better to let Miss Mo Ewing in. He had brought his brothers to join the world group verbally, although it had been half a month or so, but the actual day of joining and obtaining the world group's medal was today. This should be the second time Yi Qing Luo met him. Why did Yi Qing Luo trust him so much? Drawing random missions was an important matter. Even when he was in Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, he didn't have the chance to stand with Ji Tsangtian in the Mercenary Association to see Ji Tsangtian drawing random missions and discussing whether to accept this mission or not. But Yi Qing Luo left her capable assistant Mo Ewing outside. Instead, they brought him an outsider in, and it was the best seat in the first row. This was a treatment he had never enjoyed before. If you're not suitable, then who is? Yi Qing Luo only smiled, regarding the mercenary group's understanding. We are still too inexperienced. You are the senior. We still need your opinion on many matters. After saying that, she shifted her gaze and continued to observe the situation around her. His opinion? He was a mercenary who didn't even have the qualifications to participate in such a grand occasion. Could he really give his opinion? Zhao Bo sat on his seat and was feeling restless as he kept shooting his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo. As though sensing his gaze, Yi Qing Luo also looked over at him. After meeting his gaze, Yi Qing Luo revealed a sweet smile, as though she was consoling him not to be nervous, that she was here for everything. His heart inexplicably calmed down. She was clearly just a child. Clearly, she was younger than him. Why did he have such boldness? At this moment, Zhao Bo finally understood what he lacked in the Blue Dragon group. It was warmth. To Ji Tsangtian, these mercenaries were merely chess pieces which he could make use of, or perhaps tools to fight for him to conquer the world. However, for Yi Qing Luo, she treated all the mercenaries as real people, a living human being. She would stand on the mercenary's standpoint, from a mercenary's point of view, considering the feeling of being a mercenary. Very warm. Chapter 763. At around 9 or 10 o'clock, 3 old men dressed in white robes walked onto the stage. They looked like they were immortals. Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand. Why did these authoritative elders like to wear a white robe with fluttering sleeves and white long hair? Could it be just to look like an immortal? Just to show their inner qualities? Those 3 elderly men had badges which represented the mercenary guild's elders on their chests. All the mercenary groups stood up and bowed towards the 3 elderly men. After the 3 elderly men took their seats, they started to ring the bell one after another. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, everyone felt their ears were buzzing before they stopped. Following that, one of the elderly men stood up and used his profound qi to amplify his voice as it slowly rippled in the air. After the unchanging opening speech, they slowly entered the main topic. Another elder stood up and started to prepare for the random mission to be released. He walked to the front of the stage, and with a flip of his sleeves, a pile of huge wooden tokens hung on his wrist. Those wooden tokens were about the size of 2 fingers and were densely packed together. There were at least 200 over pieces. The elder's vision swept downwards. These are the number tokens for the random mission. Each mercenary group can only take 1 piece of number token. If you take more, your participation rights will be revoked on the spot. So, I'll give you to the count of 10 to discuss and send someone out to take the number token. His voice paused, and countless of mercenary guild staff around shouted in unison, 1, 2, 3. 200 over mercenary groups speedily pushed out their trusted people or personally went up. Yi Qing Luo directly let Xiao Bo go up. The moment the 10th countdown ended, the elder in front of the stage flipped his sleeves forcefully. The 200 over number tokens in his hands were like scattered flowers, scattering towards the mercenary group's positions below. Instantly, numerous mercenary groups jumped up and stretched out their hands to grab a piece of number token and returned to their own group's area. In just a moment, all the wooden tokens were snatched up. Xiao Bo returned to his seat and passed the number token to Long Yunjian. Yi Qing Luo took a glance at the back of the number. The number was hilarious. Number 238. Xiao Bo lowered his head in guilt. I'm sorry. What's there to be sorry about? The mission is random. It doesn't matter if you draw it early or late. The mission is still random. There's no difference. Yi Qing Luo disagreed. But there are no buts or buts. With 200 teams, we'll only be able to reach midnight at most. In other words, it would be 1 or 2 in the afternoon. We just need to conserve our energy and rest well. Even if these mercenary groups were the first to be drawn, they would still have to sit here and wait for the random missions to be released before they could move together. This was also to ensure that everyone had the same starting point. So to Yi Qing Luo, there was no difference whether the number plate was at the front or the back. In the middle of the mercenary workshop, a beautiful woman gently pulled the hand of the person beside her. She frowned slightly. Just now, I think I saw Xiao Bo. The man who was holding the number plate and cursing suddenly raised his head and furrowed his brows. That traitor Xiao Bo is here too? Great. Very good. After betraying the Blue Dragon mercenary group, he still dares to appear at this kind of place. The woman gave a light humph. I asked you to watch over him, but you didn't believe me. You even allowed Xiao Bo to bring so many members away, causing quite a number of losses. The man's eyes were filled with viciousness. After the mission is drawn, I'll make him pay for all the losses. Chapter 764. Yi Qing Luo had been observing the steps of drawing the mission. She roughly understood the main process. The mercenary group sent out a representative as he walked up the stage. In front of the crystal screen, which was flowing with water, he placed his number plate and his mercenary group badge on the screen, and a mission scroll would randomly pop out. The mission contents in the scroll, the mercenary group could choose to announce it or choose to keep it a secret. But after the mercenary group drew the mission, the crystal screen would display the mission's grade and difficulty, as well as the mercenary group's honor points. Other mercenary groups could also guess what kind of mission this mercenary group had taken on based on the grade and difficulty. The speed of selecting the mission was rather fast. Among them, Yi Qing Luo saw a familiar mercenary group. That was the Silver Plate mercenary group, which Lung Fenghua hired when she was brought to the Magic Beast Forest by DMO Xian. If she didn't remember wrongly, that group leader was called Xia Hoji. The last time she came into contact, this mercenary group's overall ability was not bad. Under the leader's leadership, the members were orderly and their reaction was not bad. Towards Xia Hoji, she rather admired him. She could consider getting in touch with him. If they could become allies, that would be for the best. Of course, the prerequisite was that Xia Hoji had taken a liking to the world group before she could consider the future matters. Yi Qing Luo wasn't narcissistic to the point of thinking that all the mercenary groups wanted to climb up with the world group. Let's not talk about whether there was any relationship with the world group. The development of the world group, till now, had only been established for a month. In terms of ability or experience, they couldn't be compared to those veteran mercenary groups. Approximately 4 hours later, Yi Qing Luo was already drowsy when she finally reached the number plate after 200. Coincidentally, the 2 mercenary groups who had a conflict with Yi Qing Luo and the rest were both ranked after 200. Peach first went up to draw a mission and drew a middle-grade experience point mission. It wasn't considered too difficult, and the reward was 20 points of mercenary group honor points. Double reward was 40 points. Peach naturally chose to accept this mission. Not long later, Bearded Man went up and drew a high-grade experience point mission. The reward was 50 points of mercenary group honor points. To the Blood Demon mercenary group, this mission was neither difficult nor easy. After getting the group leader's indication, Bearded Man took the scroll and went down the stage. Then, Yan Zhan stepped onto the stage. He didn't go through the process of drawing missions directly. Instead, he stood in front of the crystal screen and looked at the mercenary groups below. He smiled warmly and said, "Everyone has waited for such a long time, so you must be a little tired. If I may be so bold, I will bring you a little episode to refresh your spirits." Yan Zhan's voice slowly spread in the air along with his qi. The mercenary groups below were already impatient and annoyed from the wait. They only hoped to finish the drawing immediately and listen to the bullshit of the elders of the Mercenary Union so that they could complete their missions immediately. Now that Yan Zhan had appeared, what kind of interlude would he bring? They didn't have the leisure to do that, other than a few bored mercenary groups raising their arms in agreement. Most of the mercenary groups looked impatient, urging Yan Zhan to finish the task and get off the stage. What is he trying to do? Qiao Jin suddenly tightened his grip on the coin dart and frowned. Yan Zhan was definitely not a magnanimous person. Their instincts told them that Yan Zhan's episode was probably related to them. Yi Qingluo raised her brows as she looked at the man who was still smiling warmly on the stage. "I'm afraid. He wants to slap our faces." Chapter 765. Before Yi Qingluo could reply, she heard a scornful sneer coming from the other side of Qiao Jin. "That's right. That Miss Tao of yours has exposed this hypocrite's real face, and this hypocrite wants to slap that Miss Tao of yours on the face." Immediately following that voice laughed disdainfully. "Slut Jean, in order to protect that Miss Tao of yours beautiful face, you'd better stick your face over obediently and let that hypocrite Yan Zhan hit you." Qiao Jin's brows creased tightly as he threw the gold coin dart onto the table with a paw sound. "Yan Xiaoyi, you're very strange today. Have I offended you? Is there any meaning in targeting me with every single word?" Yan Xiaoyi's beautiful eyes stared straight at Qiao Jin as her gaze was chilly like frost. She opened her mouth and was about to speak, but she heard Qiao Jin continuing, "Even if I've offended you, Miss Tao hasn't offended you, right? Today is the first time we've met Miss Tao, and every single word you've said is targeting Miss Tao, ruining Miss Tao's reputation. Are you sick?" All the words were stuck in her throat. Yan Xiaoyi's expression was steely green as she clenched her fists tightly. After some time, she bore with her anger as her red lips curled into a self-deprecating arc. "I'm indeed sick." Saying that, she shifted her gaze away as she stared at the stage, not saying a single word. Qiao Jin was stunned. If it was usual times, if he scolded Yan Xiaoyi, the consequence would be his head exploding. But Yan Xiaoyi had no reaction and even admitted that she was sick. She couldn't really be angry, right? Qiao Jin's arrogance instantly disappeared as that serious and reasonable expression collapsed. "Xiaoyi, all right. I'm the one who's sick. I'm in the wrong, all right?" His tone softened, but Yan Xiaoyi's gaze was fixed on the stage as she ignored him. "My dear grandaunt, I'm in the wrong. I shouldn't have scolded you. You hit me? Hit me all right?" At this moment, Qiao Jin was completely flustered. He and Yan Xiaoyi had long become a habit of fooling around. No matter how overboard his words were or how out of line he was, Yan Xiaoyi would always use the same attitude to reply him. But Yan Xiaoyi actually ignored him. "Grandaunt." "Jinzi." Yi Qingluo coughed lightly as she suppressed her voice. "Everyone is looking at you. Your matters. After we leave the Mercenary Association, we can slowly talk about it, all right?" Yan Zhan had originally been on the stage, and he had said an interlude to liven things up, causing countless mercenary groups to react. When Qiao Jin slammed the coin darts on the table, it immediately attracted the attention of the mercenary groups. Immediately, everyone's gaze focused on Qiao Jin. Fortunately, their voices weren't loud, so other than the mercenary groups at the back, no one else could hear their conversation. Otherwise, it would be extremely embarrassing. Qiao Jin's complexion alternated between green, white, and finally completely red. The mercenary corps below the high platform suddenly laughed out loud. This was a real refreshing interlude. Yen Zhan stood on the high platform, his expression not much better. When he specifically drew a mission, it attracted everyone's attention. Instead, it allowed the World Group to occupy the sites of the other mercenary groups. Why was the World Group always going against him? The more he thought about it, the more resentment he felt towards the World Group. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fists tightly, but maintained a cultured and refined look on his face as he cleared his throat and raised his voice. I believe everyone has heard of the World Mercenary Group's name. A mercenary group established by a group of 15 to 16-year-old young lads. And on the next day, it was promoted from an ordinary mercenary group to a bronze plate mercenary group. Chapter 766. The World Mercenary Group, the middle and lower class mercenary groups in the mercenary world had basically all heard of it. To be able to establish a mercenary group for the second time and directly upgrade to a bronze plate in the entire Mercenary Association's history, there was only one heaven defying existence, the World Mercenary Group. If it was said that before the World Group was established, it had already nurtured numerous high-leveled cultivators and had abundant financial support, as well as a strong backing. On the second day of establishment, if they were able to upgrade to a bronze plate, they wouldn't feel surprised. But the World Mercenary Group had 60 overmembers, and although they were all from the Imperial Palace, but everyone's average age was 15 years old and the oldest was just 18 years old. No matter how powerful they were, they absolutely couldn't be considered as high-leveled cultivators, right? Financial support? According to what the Yuchi family said, the World Mercenary Group's headquarters was in a huge mansion in a corner of Three Spring City, which looked extremely old. The only commendable thing about that mansion was that the security measures were done extremely well. Other than the World Group's members, no outsiders were able to enter. But this showed even more that these youngsters weren't willing to let others see their old and dilapidated mansion as a joke. Talking about the strong background backing, this Yi Qing Luo was the young matriarch of Three Springs Sect, but Three Springs Sect had been going downhill in recent years. Moreover, Yi Qing Luo wasn't favored in Three Springs Sect. Especially with the recent waves of scandals in Three Springs Sect, it had long caused Three Springs Sect's reputation to hit rock bottom. The biggest backing was probably the Overlord. But other than giving Yi Qing Luo a wave of young men and young ladies from the Imperial Palace, the Overlord hadn't taken any action to help the World Group. The more they thought, the more lost the mercenary groups felt. These youngsters were so outstanding at such a young age. If they were allowed to develop, wouldn't they be able to crush them in minutes? Since ancient times, heroes are born from the youngsters. I, Yen, have long admired the World Mercenary Group. Taking this opportunity, I, Yen, represent my invincible group to issue a challenge to the World Mercenary Group. Yen Zhan saw that his words had already attracted the attention of those mercenary groups, as the smile on his lips grew even wider. His vision shot towards Yi Qing Luo, who was seated at the first row. The mercenary groups below instantly went into an uproar. Challenged the World Group? As an old mercenary group, no matter how dissatisfied they were with the World Group, no one dared to find trouble for them in the open, right? What do you want to challenge the World Mercenary Group for? The elder, who was standing by the side of the crystal screen, received Emo Hanshang's signal and took a step forward, standing in front of Yen Zhan, as he asked in a deep voice. Yen Zhan revealed a confident smile. Let's take advantage of this random mission. The first mercenary group to complete the mission will be the winner. He then looked towards Long Yin Zhan. For the sake of fairness, the World Group has a total of 98 people. Invincible Battles will also send 98 people to participate in the random mission. Challenging in front of so many mercenary groups. Actually, to the World Group, this challenge was something they could only choose to accept. If he didn't accept this challenge, he would probably become a laughingstock in the mercenary world. Accepting and winning The World Group was once again famous in the mercenary world. As a newly established mercenary group, it was only natural for them to lose to an old mercenary group. At this time, the other mercenary groups did not feel so strongly about Invincible anymore. 98 people against 98 people. It was considered fair. The World Group leader, what do you think? Yan Zhan's smile deepened. Long Yunzhan's face was icy cold. That handsome face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost, which repelled people 1,000 miles away. His azure blue eyes were like lake water as ripples appeared. Chapter 767. In other words, he, Yan Zhan, an invincible mercenary group, were nothing in his eyes. On what basis? Was he, Yan Zhan, qualified? Crazy! How arrogant! It was simply arrogant and flamboyant. However, this kind of arrogance was something that no one could dislike. Looking at Long Yunzhan's expressionless and extraordinarily handsome face, his expression was still indifferent, as if his words were following his heart. Yan Zhan's face stiffened and his smile froze on his face. That damned the World Group. His ability to humiliate others was indeed one set after another. Standing on the high platform, he could clearly see the expressions on everyone's faces. Everyone in the mercenary corps looked at him with a mocking gaze. It was as if they were treating him like a clown. Yan Zhan was so angry that his entire body was trembling. However, due to his image in the eyes of outsiders, he was famous for his elegant demeanor and elegance. No matter how furious he was, he had to maintain a gentle expression on his face. He glared at the blood demon mercenary corps from the corner of his eyes. Bearded Man then regained his senses as he swiftly stood up and spoke in a loud and clear voice. Since that's the case, adding my blood demon mercenaries group to participate in the challenge. Does the World Group leader feel that we have the qualifications now? Xiao Jin's brows furrowed tightly. Didn't Miss Tao already expose Yan Zhan's true colors? Why is the Gore-Fiend group joining in the fun? Yan Xiao snorted. Your Miss Tao's eloquence has failed. Xiao Jin subconsciously wanted to retort, but when he thought of Yan Xiaoyi's cold violence towards him earlier, he immediately shut his mouth. Yes, 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 my great aunt. Humph. Towards Xiao Jin's display of weakness, our proud Yan Xiao didn't appreciate it in the slightest. Yi Qing Luo lazily leaned back on the chair, her long eyelashes fluttered, her pink lips curved, clear and shallow. There is a type of person who mingles in the pugilistic world, relying on his mouth. Her gaze fell on Yan Zhan. Yan Zhan's mouth can even bring the dead back to life. A brainless executive commander like Shin Qin would naturally be easily fooled by Yan Zhan. They looked at each other in dismay. The other mercenary groups were boiling with excitement. If Yan Zhan had said that he wanted to create a small interlude to refresh himself, they would not have been interested. But now, their interest could not be any greater. The Blood Demon Mercenary Group was an old mercenary group with a good reputation in the Inner Realm. It was a silver mercenary group. He actually participated in this challenge as well. Should it be said that the World Mercenary Group was too eye-catching, attracting the attention of many large mercenary groups? They should be wiping their cold sweat for the World Mercenary Group. They had become the target of the large mercenary groups. The Blood Demon Mercenary Group is a silver mercenary group. The difficulty of their missions is higher than yours. Yan Zhan had instructed Big Beard to memorize these words, so he was able to recite them smoothly. Since I am participating in the challenge, the Blood Demon Mercenary Corps will do the same. We will only send 98 people to participate in the challenge. Even the Silver Plate Mercenary Group had stood out, and if the World Group didn't accept it, then they would really become the laughingstock of the mercenary world. Long Yunzhan's brows furrowed slightly as ripples appeared in his azure eyes, and he seemed slightly impatient. Qiao Jin and Yan Xiao clenched their fists tightly, their faces filled with rage. Zhao Bo also couldn't sit still as he kept shooting his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo and Long Yunzhan's direction. wanting to open his mouth to analyze the current situation. But on seeing Long Yunjan's gloomy cold gaze, all his words were stuck in his throat. Chapter 768. Long Yunjan shook his head faintly as his eyes squinted, staring intently at the stage where Yan Zhan's expression had already reverted back to a complacent look. The arc on the corners of his eyes turned chilly. Why? Student Yiqing Luo, isn't your the World Mercenary Group very powerful? Aren't you relying on the fact that you have the support of the Overlord and are especially arrogant? A sharp voice was heard from the crowd. Shangguan Liuli, who was dressed in a jade-green long dress, stood at the corner of the Mercenary Association with her arms crossed as she leaned against the wall. Her face was filled with cold ridicule, filled with contempt and disdain towards the World Group. Fifth Miss Shangguan, I heard that this Miss Yi is a student from Devil Class, the Waste Class in Heavenly Academy. How powerful can the group she leads be? Beside Shangguan Liuli, eldest Xiong's group of brothers chimed in one after another. How could these mediocre mercenary groups possibly know about Heavenly Academy's matters? The answer was self-evident as to who taught them to say these words. Damn it! Earlier in the marketplace, they were so arrogant and despotic, even daring to beat up the law enforcers. Now, on seeing Invincible Group and Blood Demon Group's challenge, this bunch of waste are terrified. Pooey, a bunch of useless fellows, still dared to say that Leader Yan isn't qualified to challenge you? I'm telling you, you bunch of waste, totally have no right to compete with Leader Yan. To put it bluntly, these mercenaries in the lower levels of the market were just hooligans. Under Shangguan Liuli's instigation, all of them started to hurl insults, which were extremely unpleasant to hear. All sorts of unbearable vulgarities started to spew out from their mouths. Shangguan Liuli covered her mouth as she giggled. Don't say that. At least they are disciples from the Imperial Palace. The surrounding mercenary groups could hear the hidden meaning in Shangguan Liuli's words. They couldn't help but feel indignant for the Overlord. The Overlord had chosen 10 over disciples from the Imperial Palace out of goodwill to help Yiqing Luo establish a mercenary group. Yiqing Luo was from Heavenly Academy's Waste Class, Devil Class student. No matter how strong Yiqing Luo's ability was, being allocated to Devil Class meant that the Academy had deemed Yiqing Luo as a waste. A waste had led the Overlord's Imperial Palace's disciple to become waste? These mercenary groups didn't know much about the Academy's affairs. Naturally, he didn't understand how Yiqing Luo broke the Heavenly Academy's record and so on to prove her ability. Yiqing Luo naturally understood the deep meaning behind Shangguan Liuli's words. The corners of her mouth curled into a cold arc. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Shangguan Liuli with a faint smile. It had only been a few days since they last met, but Shangguan Liuli seemed to have become much smarter. He actually knew how to use the Emperor Palace's disciples to suppress her. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh out. He didn't know if Shangguan Liuli's mind suddenly became sober after the torture, or was there someone guiding him from the shadows. However, right now, Yiqing Luo had to admit that Shangguan Liuli's move was extremely ingenious. Of course, even if Shangguan Liuli didn't use DMO Xian or the Imperial Palace to ridicule her, she would still accept this challenge. Regardless of what Shangguan Liuli was plotting to unite Invincible and Blood Fiend mercenary groups, it didn't matter. To the World Mercenary Group, this was a pretty good challenge. Since Blood Fiend Mercenary Group and Invincible Mercenary Group have already appeared, I, a small group like the World, have no choice but to comply. An icy cold voice was heard, clear and deep. Chapter 769. The coldness on Long Yunjan's face had already faded away as his brows were filled with unhappiness. Now, are you satisfied? Shangguan Liuli was pierced by his gaze as her entire body turned stiff as she stood dazed on the spot. The hooting bearded man and that complacent Yan Zhan were also stunned. What was he trying to pull off? Why did the World Group's group leader display such a helpless look? This wasn't their misconception. Those melons spectating mercenary groups saw Long Yunjian, who had been maintaining his cold and aloof state, revealing such an expression and hearing the anger hidden in his words. Those melons spectating mercenary groups who were standing on the blood demon group's side earlier now stood on Long Yunjian's side. Yi Qing Luo was about to slap the table and burst out laughing as she couldn't help but gave Long Yunjian a thumbs up. Didn't Yunjian want to join forces with Bearded Man to use the fearsome gossip to force the world group into their trap? Now, Long Yunjian was giving them a taste of their own medicine. Long Yunjian's intention was, I agreed to it because you forced me. You old groups can't bear to see the newly established group being the center of attention and jealous of our new group. Your old groups can't tolerate a new group with potential. Many mercenary groups at the scene had this kind of mentality. But on the surface, they still displayed the attitude of a senior, encouraging the new group, admiring the new group with potential, etc. Right now, Invincible and Blood Demon Group were obviously overbearing, wanting to destroy the world mercenary group with potential. I won't waste everyone's time. Blood Demon Group, and the World Group's mission will be left at the end to draw. Saying that, Yunjian escaped down the stage. The elder received Mo Hanshang's hint and didn't say anything as he continued to read the numbers at the back. Perhaps these mercenary groups wanted to see what kind of mission these 3 mercenary groups who had participated in the challenge would draw. The speed of drawing random missions was extremely fast. But within the time it took to burn an incense stick, the entire random mission activity was only left with these 3 mercenary groups. Yi Qing Luo's vision shot towards Zhao Bo's direction. Zhao Bo understood her meaning as he immediately stood up and walked up the stage. Zhao Bo! Just as the entire crowd was silent, waiting to see what mission the World Mercenary Group would draw, a furious howl was suddenly heard from the back. A man dressed in green, old clothing stood up as he pointed at the World Group's representative. I've not expected you to really go to the World Mercenary Group. You traitor. Lan Lingnua, who was by her side, also stood up, and her gaze was like a torch as she looked directly at Yi Qing Luo, her gaze searching one round around her. As if he did not see the person he was looking for, a trace of imperceptible disappointment appeared on his face. This gaze was naturally noticed by Yi Qing Luo. She turned her head around lazily and squinted her eyes as she casted a fleeting glance at Ji Tsongtian and immediately retracted her gaze. Standing on the high platform, Zhao Bo's face darkened. He clenched his fists tightly as if he was trying his best to restrain his anger. He looked at Yi Qing Luo and hung his head guiltily. Vice Group Leader, Don't bother about unimportant people. Let's go and draw our mission. Yi Qing Luo said calmly. Her voice was clear and melodious. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. Don't bother about unimportant people. Go and draw our mission. Ji Tsongtian flew into a rage as the veins on his face popped out. Yi Qing Luo, I've long seen that you have ill intentions for getting close to our Blue Dragon mercenary group. So this is what you're planning. You poached the mercenary group, which I had painstakingly nurtured. Poaching? Chapter 770. At this very moment, these mercenary groups were no longer as impatient as before. Over the years, they had been muddling around in various missions, and their mental state had always been highly tensed. Today they were waiting for a random mission in the Mercenary Association to let themselves relax and rest. When they met with such a matter, the Mercenary Association's elder didn't say anything, so they just treated it as a show. Poaching this matter to mercenary groups was a huge taboo. Mercenary groups, as the name implied, relied on mercenaries. With mercenaries, there would be mercenary groups. The minute they joined a mercenary group, the most important thing for a mercenary was to ensure their loyalty towards the mercenary group. Because mercenary groups usually fought in groups. Everyone would become brothers who would go through life and death together. After experiencing life and death, their relationship would become even more unwavering. Hence, if any mercenary group was exposed that a certain mercenary had betrayed the mercenary group and joined another mercenary group, they would definitely be reviled by the entire mercenary world. This was a kind of betrayal. When Ji Tsangtian went out of the world group to poach someone, he even openly brought him to this random mission, drawing location. It could be seen that this mercenary who was poached over definitely held an important position in the world group. But no matter what position condition the world group gave him, he should not betray Blue Dragon mercenary group. Instantly, all the mercenaries frowned as their faces were filled with ridicule and disgust towards Xiao Bo. Their gazes towards Long Yinzhan and the others were filled with disdain. They looked down on people who poached other mercenary groups, mercenaries from the bottom of their hearts. Yanzhan and Big Beardy, who were standing by the side waiting to draw a random mission, exchanged glances as they saw the joy in each other's eyes. Even Heavens was helping them. They had not expected the world group to poach a mercenary from Blue Dragon mercenary group. Poaching was a huge taboo in a mercenary group. They could almost imagine the scene of the world group being condemned by everyone. Perhaps they didn't even need to make a move. The world group would be completely destroyed. Xiao Bo stood by the side of the crystal screen, and as a cultivator, how could he not hear the discussions of those mercenaries below the stage, and how could he not feel those mercenaries' gazes? These, when he decided to leave Blue Dragon Group, he had already thought of such a situation. He didn't care, but these people were not only ridiculing him. There was also the world group. To him, the world group was his second home and also the last home that he had decided to settle on. If because of him, this family would be implicated, his conscience would never be at peace for the rest of his life. Xiao Bo looked at the crystal screen in front of him and suddenly became timid. He couldn't draw this random mission. He could not implicate the world group. Clenching his fists tightly, Xiao Bo was about to turn around and leave the stage to explain everything to Yi Qing Luo. However, an extremely lazy female voice entered his ears. "Xiao Bo, hurry up. Commander Yen and Executive Commander Shin are still waiting for you." Xiao Bo's expression turned ugly. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but when he met Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes, his body suddenly stiffened. Following that, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly, revealing an extremely gentle smile. That smile, like the warm sunlight, poured into his heart. Inexplicably, his body seemed to be filled with power. Xiao Bo's tightly clenched fists loosened one by one. The expression on his face had also regained his confidence and calmness. Raising his hand, he printed his member's badge and number tag on it. A scroll suddenly popped out and landed steadily in Xiao Bo's hands. Chapter 771. Low Grade Experience Mission. 5 points of Mercenary Group. Credit points. Yanzhan and Bearded Man were dumbstruck. It was actually a low-grade experience mission. 5 points of credit points. Even if it was double the reward, it was only 10 points. What kind of luck did the world group have? They had drawn the lowest and easiest mission. Earlier they had gone through a challenge competition with the world group, unless they had also drawn a low-grade experience mission. Otherwise, they would not be able to win at all. Even if Shangguan Liuli sent someone to create trouble, this kind of simple mission could be settled in minutes. The 2 mercenary groups were in a complete mess. The other mercenary groups were sighing endlessly. The world group's luck was just a little too good. Xiao Bo took the scroll and was about to leave when he heard Yi Qing Luo saying, "Xiao Bo, give up this mission." What? Xiao Bo was stunned. Give up this low-grade experience mission? Hadn't group leader already accepted this challenge? If they were to give up, wouldn't they be giving up the chance to win for sure? And to spend 100 points of mercenary group credit points. Not only was Xiao Bo unable to believe it, the others were also unable to believe that Yi Qing Luo would actually give up a sure win mission. Didn't they want to win the challenge against the two mercenary groups? Or because their poaching had been discovered and they were worried that they would be bombarded by the other mercenary groups? So they intentionally gave up the chance to win for sure. To divert their attention? Yan Zhan was in even more disbelief. A sure win chance. Why would the World Group give up on it? What on earth were they planning? In case someone finds an excuse to say that we relied on luck to win. Yi Qing Luo brushed her fine black hair as she slowly stood up. That devastatingly beautiful face was filled with a sneer of ridicule. Our the World Group not only have absolute luck, we also have absolute ability. Her sonorous and forceful voice, word by word, was like an oath as it struck everyone's heart. Zhao Bo's blood was boiling as his eyes were filled with determination and faith. A decision was formlessly formed in his heart. All right, he passed the scroll to the elder. The World Group, give up this random mission and request to use the second chance. Random mission activities indeed had the rule of giving up and second chance. The elder nodded. Just as Zhao Bo was about to draw for the second time, Yi Qing Luo propped her chin with her fingertips as she raised her brows and smiled. We've already drawn once. Let's let Captain Yan and Executive Captain Xin draw first. Zhao Bo retreated to the side to make room. There was no need to doubt the randomness of the mercenary union's random mission screen. Yan Zhan wasn't afraid that Yi Qing Luo would play some tricks on the mission. He walked directly to the side of the screen. Before he drew, he seemed to have thought of something. For the sake of fairness between the three mercenary groups, we will add one more request. Speak. Just as you said, mercenary groups have absolute luck and absolute strength. I agree with this statement. The corners of Yan Zhan's lips curled up. Therefore, our challenge this time is not just a competition to see who completes the mission first. We are also competing to see who gets the most generous rewards during the mission. This was truly a test of a mercenary group's luck and strength. To be honest, Yan Zhan's request was too much. Yan Zhan and Big Beard had obviously joined forces. Big Beardy was the executive leader of the Silver Blood Demon Group. The chances of getting a high-level mission from a Silver Blood Demon Group was much higher than the two Bronze Blood Demon Groups. Naturally, the rewards were the most generous. Moreover speaking, Yan Zhan had 2 chances to draw a random mission. Big Beardy also had 2 chances, whereas for Zhao Bo, he was left with one last chance. Chapter 772. It was obvious that the 2 mercenary groups had teamed up to bully the World Group. But Melon Eater Mercenary Group's crowd expressed that if it wasn't for the World Group poaching, they would definitely speak up for the World Group. But the matter of the World Group poaching made them develop a sense of disgust towards the World Group. At this moment, naturally no mercenary group would stand out to speak up for the World Group. On the contrary, they couldn't wait for the World Group to lose to the other 2 mercenary groups. Zhao Bo's brows creased tightly as his voice was filled with anger. Captain Yan, your request is too harsh. Harsh? Yan Zhan shrugged his shoulders innocently. I'm merely targeting the logic in Miss Ye's words and raising out my request. How is it harsh? Pausing for a moment, his smile became even gentler. You feel that my request is harsh, which means you're denying the logic in Miss Ye's words. You. Zhao Bo's face flushed red, but he had no way to rebuke him. Seeing Zhao Bo being deflated till he couldn't say a single word. Ji Tsangtian, who was acting as a shit-stirrer, laughed coldly as he shouted at the top of his voice, Zhao Bo, you traitor who betrayed the Blue Dragon Group. Still not going to scram off the stage? What rights do you have to stand on the stage? Zhao Bo's muscles tensed up. It wasn't because of Ji Tsangtian's insults, nor was it because of Yan Zhan's shamelessness. But because of him he had embarrassed the World Group. He felt that he had let the World Group down. Ha! A light laugh rang in this atmosphere as it was exceptionally clear. Everyone's gazes followed the direction of the laughter. Captain Yen is indeed an obedient dog, listening to whatever its master says. So obedient. Yi Qing Luo's smile was coquettish as her figure swayed slightly, and she had already leapt onto the stage, standing beside Zhao Bo, her fair little hand directly placed on Zhao Bo's shoulder. Zhao Bo, no matter which mercenary group you were in previously, who you followed, or what happened to you. But now, you only need to remember one thing. You're a member of the World Group, my brother. Melon Eater Mercenary Group exploded. There was no one else who dared to openly poach people from the World Group. There was only one group and no one else. Since Captain Yen is so obedient as the master if I don't agree to it, wouldn't it seem too unreasonable? Yi Qing Luo finished her words and turned her head over, as she looked at Yen Zhan with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Yen Zhan's entire face turned green and red from Yi Qing Luo's continuous calls of dog, dog. What the F***CK are you talking about? Who are you calling? How could Big Beard tolerate it? Someone insulted his friend in front of him? He immediately flew into a rage as he raised his fist and charged towards Yi Qing Luo. Yen Zhan stopped Big Beardy. Yen Zhan was not a broad-minded person. To be more precise, he was a narrow-minded person. Being teased by Yi Qing Luo in this manner, Yen Zhan's hatred and disgust towards Yi Qing Luo grew even thicker. But on seeing that Yi Qing Luo had agreed to his request, he temporarily suppressed his anger. Now that they had allowed Big Beard to lay his hands on Yi Qing Luo in public, even if they had taught Yi Qing Luo a lesson, Big Beard would still be punished, and it might possibly affect the reputation of the invincible battle group. Invincibility was equivalent to Yen Zhan's face. How could Yen Zhan bear to let his face be tainted with dirty traces? Anyway, Yi Qing Luo couldn't escape. The World Group couldn't escape. Go and draw a mission. Yen Zhan finally managed to stop Big Beardy's rampage, as he speedily pushed him to draw a random mission. Big Beardy blew his beard as his eyes widened, as he heavily puffed out a gust of cold air from his nostrils, as he walked directly to the crystal screen, as he rudely printed his badge and number tag on it. A scroll bounced out as it landed in his palm. On the screen, the flowing water outlined the words, as it was faintly discernible. Chapter 773. A high rare quest. 80 honor points. Double that meant 160 honor points. This could be considered a high-level reward for a high-level mission. Generally speaking, even if it was a rare advanced quest, the reward would at most be 50 to 60 honor points. It would be difficult to get more than 70 honor points, not to mention the 80 honor points. Of course, the high-grade rare mission which Yi Qing Luo had snatched from Yu Chi Peng last month could not be compared to this. At that time, Mo Hanshang also said that this mission, no matter what, should be classified as a complicated grade mission. As the young master, Mo Hanshang had yet to ascend to the position after all. Towards the internal affairs of the Mercenary Association, it wasn't easy for him to investigate thoroughly, and he only briefly mentioned it to the elders once. In the end, they only found out that the staff member in charge of sorting the mission levels was a newcomer, so there was a mistake. The elder had already punished the staff member. Because there was no major mistake, the matter was left unsettled. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the reward for a real high-grade rare mission would at most be 60 to 70 honor points. The better ones would be 80 to 90 honor points. The Melon Eater Mercenary Group was stunned. Oh my god! The luck of the Blood Demon Group was too heaven-defying. This kind of reward, even if Yi Qing Luo's luck was heaven-defying, to draw the Bronze Plate Mercenary Group's top-grade rare mission, there was absolutely no such high honor value reward. Moreover, just based on these young men and women in the World Group, even if they were to defy the heavens and draw a high-grade rare mission, they wouldn't be able to complete it. There's no need to compete. The World Group is bound to lose. There's no suspense at all. This is boring. Hurry up and draw a quest. Stop wasting everyone's time. The members of the Melon Eater mercenary group also lost their original expectations and interest in something that they could completely guess the outcome of. Yan Zhan smiled. His laughter was filled with pride. The pair of seemingly gentle eyebrows overflowed with an air of superiority. He was so confident that even his footsteps were like the wind. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his request to compete for the mission rewards was too smart. This time it was a sure win. Yan Zhan did not feel any burden in his heart. He casually printed his number plate and the regiment commander's medal on it. The smile on his face froze the moment the mission scroll popped out. On the screen, it was printed with the same handwriting as the random mission that Zhao Bo had just drawn. Low-level training mission. 5 mercenary group honor points. The Melon Eater mercenary group was in an uproar. Yi Qing Luo sneered as her lips curled into a cold arc of ridicule. Now, Yan Zhan was probably regretting it so much that his intestines had turned green. Indeed, Yan Zhan had the urge to slap himself to death. He actually drew such a low-level mission? If he hadn't made that smart request just now, he would have been the one to win for sure. He had absolute confidence that he could complete this low-grade learning mission before Yi Qing Luo. Just by looking at the 5 honor points, he knew that it was only enough to kill an ordinary tiger or leopard at most. He could casually send someone, and the saber would rise and fall in less than half an incense stick's time. Rather than letting the Blood Demon group win this challenge, Yan Zhan naturally hoped that his team would win. This was an honor. However, Yan Zhan could not accept this mission. The reward was only part of the reason. More importantly, Yi Qing Luo had just given up on the same mission, and that was before he had even requested for the reward. If he accepted this mission now, wasn't it like slapping himself on the face and getting slapped by Yi Qing Luo? Chapter 774. So, this low-leveled mission I choose to give up to. Yan Zhan said it in a dignified manner, putting on a look as though he was cooperating with Yi Qing Luo. The other mercenary groups understood the deeper meaning in his words, but they didn't point it out. After Yan Zhan gave up on this mission, he directly used the second chance to draw another mission. Perhaps because he had given up on the low-leveled mission, the Mercenary Association deducted 100 points of mercenary groups' honor points, which helped Yan Zhan accumulate his luck. The second round of drawing, Yan Zhan's luck was off the charts as he drew the exact same high-leveled mission as the bearded man. Looking at the top of the screen, the flowing water outlined the words high-leveled rare mission. Yan Zhan almost screamed out in joy. His heartache over his 100 points of honor points instantly vanished into thin air. High-leveled rare mission. 50 points of mercenary group honor points. Although it wasn't as bountiful as the Blood Demon mercenary group's reward, but among the high-leveled rare missions, this reward was considered as medium. Yan Zhan took the scroll and returned to the bearded man's side as his face was filled with unconcealable ecstasy. Over the years, the bronze plate mercenary groups, who were able to draw the extremely low probability of a high-leveled rare mission, was not more than 100 groups. Vice Group Leader. Zhao Bo's expression turned extremely ugly. Under this kind of situation, the World Group had no chance of winning at all, even if they also drew a high-leveled rare mission and completed it before Invincible and Blood Demon Group. But their reward was absolutely not comparable to Blood Demon Group, so they would still lose if they lost. Who knew how these 2 mercenary groups would arrange the World Group? The World Group would probably become a joke in the mercenary world, completely destroyed. But Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change at all, as though everything was within her control. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an enchanting smile as her eyes were long and narrow, as she shot a glance at the 2 men whose faces were filled with ecstasy, suppressing her voice as she laughed softly. The higher the reward, the higher the danger of the mission. Did they really think that 80 points of mercenary group honor points was so easy to get? Moreover, the time limit for taking part in the random mission was only 3 days. Blood Demon Group was a silver plate mercenary group, and their ability was displayed there. 4 high-leveled rare missions. If they spent some time and energy and threw in some manpower and financial resources, there was a possibility of completing it. But unfortunately, Blood Demon Group took part in the challenge against the World Group and even offered to send 98 Mercenary Group to take part in the mission. 3 days, 98 Mercenary Group. Could he really complete this advanced, rare mission with a heaven-defying reward? Looking at Yen Zhan's invincible mercenary group, it had already been 3 to 5 years, but it was still a bronze mercenary group. It could be seen that the overall strength of Yen Zhan's mercenary group was average. Yen Zhan's eloquence was the main reason he was able to make it this far. A high-rank rare quest? Even if he managed to draw it, he would still need to have the ability to complete it. When Xiao Bo heard this, he nodded in realization. Yes. When he was in Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, Xiao Bo had some understanding of similar mercenary groups. It was impossible for Yen Zhan's team to handle high-level rare missions. Even if he drew a rare advanced quest, he wouldn't be able to complete it, let alone get the reward. Especially when Yen Zhan boasted shamelessly that only 98 mercenary groups would challenge them. Sadly, Yen Zhan was still complacent and was completely unaware of it. Miss Yi, it's your turn. Yen Zhan beamed as he looked at Yi Qing Luo. I hope, miss, you will always be that lucky. Yi Qing Luo didn't say a word as she walked directly to the crystal screen, and according to the procedure, she drew the mission. This was the World Group's last chance to draw a random mission. Chapter 7, 75. Vice Group Leader's badge and number plate were imprinted on the crystal screen. Yi Qing Luo only felt a stream of water flowing past her palm as a cool sensation assaulted her. Instantly, the entire screen shook. Following that, on the screen, those streams of water flowed extremely swiftly. This was the first time the bunch of Melon Eater Mercenary Group crowd had seen this and were extremely astonished. The elder by the side was also stunned as he hurriedly walked up as he stared at the crystal screen without blinking. Even the 2 elders who were seated by the side also stood up one after another as they rushed towards the screen. Yi Qing Luo's hair stood up from the crowd's gazes. She wanted to retract her hand and wait for the mission scroll. But before her hand could move, she heard the elder berating her agitatedly. Don't move! Don't move! Yi Qing Luo's hand froze on the screen. The 3 elders' gazes were like a bunch of monkeys as they stared deeply at the flowing water on the screen as their eyes shone brightly. What on earth was going on? The strange phenomenon on the screen and the elders' expressions made the Melon Eater Mercenary Group crowd below reveal a puzzled expression. Most of it was because of the shock which Yi Qing Luo gave them. After taking part in so many random missions, this was the first time they had seen this. Such a situation appeared on the crystal screen. This was absolutely not the crystal screen's problem, but it was because of that lass. Just as the crowd were looking at each other in dismay, waiting for the elders to see the reason and resolve the doubts in their hearts, the flowing water on the crystal screen suddenly stopped as though it had stopped. A mission scroll popped out from the middle of the screen. Yi Qing Luo caught it. The mission scroll had finally appeared. What kind of mission was it to actually cause that kind of phenomenon earlier? Everyone held their breaths as they stared at the screen, waiting for the mission's grade to appear. But the moment the mission scroll popped out, the water continued to flow, and gradually it outlined 3 symbols. 3. The Melon Eater Mercenary Group crowd looked at each other in dismay. What's with the 3 question marks? What does this mean? What mission did the World Group draw? Why are there 3 question marks? Could it be that the random mission artifact is spoilt? Elder, what on earth is going on? We're still in a rush to complete the mission. The mercenary group below was in chaos. The 3 elders on the stage were flabbergasted as their gazes moved back and forth between the mission scroll in Yi Qing Luo's hands and the crystal screen. After a while, the mercenaries slowly came back to their senses. Cough, cough. All right, everyone, stop arguing. One of the elders raised his hand and gestured for everyone to be quiet. Another elder stroked his white beard as a delighted smile appeared on the corner of his lips. The mission that the World Group's Vice Group leader drew wasn't because this random screen was faulty, but because the mission that the World Group's Vice Group leader drew was a random mission among the random. The so-called random of random means that this mission is a random mission that surpasses the mercenary group's level. It could be a low-level training mission, or it could be a complex or legendary rare mission. In any case, the opening of this scroll is completely random, and anything is possible. The elder's explanation made the mercenaries gasp in astonishment. The most random of random quests. Should they say that the World Group's luck was good? Or should they say that the mission that the World Group had drawn added a shred of mystery to this challenge, which they had already won for sure? Of course, these mercenary groups' crowd had basically given the World Group a death sentence. No matter what mission the World Group drew from this random scroll, they probably wouldn't be a match for the Blood Demon Group. Chapter 776. Yanjian and Big Beard obviously thought so too. Hence, when he saw Yi Qing Luo passing the scroll to Zhao Bo, there wasn't a single trace of fear or panic on his face. The four of them got off the platform and returned to their seats. All the mercenary groups that participated in the random mission activities have received their mission scrolls, right? The elder's dignified gaze swept across the people below, and his voice was steady and loud. Yes. The mercenary group responded in unison, raising the mission scroll in their hands. The elder nodded. The process of this random mission was a small interlude suggested by the Invincible Mercenary Group. This elder will represent the Mercenary Guild as a witness and will make the most impartial judgment for the result of the Invincible Mercenary Group and the Blood Demon Mercenary Group, challenging the World Mercenary Group. The mercenaries were confused. They all knew that the Mercenary Association's young master Emo Hanshang had joined the World Group. Logically speaking, in order to maintain the reputation of the Mercenary Union, the Mercenary Union would never allow this challenge to stand. If the World Group lost, the public opinion would then shift from the World Group to Emo Hanshang and eventually implicate the Mercenary Association. But the truth was, when Yan Zhan issued the challenge, the elder did not stop him at all. Instead, he maintained an approving attitude. In the end, he even acted as a witness for this challenge. Could it be they had so much confidence in Emo Hanshang and the World Group? On behalf of the Mercenary Union, I would like to apologize for wasting so much of your time. Now, I, the elder, officially announce the start of the random mission. As soon as he finished speaking, thunderous applause resounded throughout the hall. At the same time when the applause stopped, an enraged voice rang. Elder, my Blue Dragon Mercenary Group is applying to the Mercenary Guild to cancel the World Mercenary Group's establishment rights. Ji Tsangtian stood up from the crowd as his face was filled with anger. The mercenary groups that were about to leave immediately stopped in their tracks. There was indeed such a rule in the Mercenary Guild's rules. If a mercenary group caught another mercenary group violating the rules of the Mercenary Union and provided evidence, they would have the right to apply to the Mercenary Union to cancel the qualifications of the other mercenary group. However, in the past few decades, there had never been a case of other mercenary groups being disqualified. Everyone's gazes congealed towards Ji Tsangtian. The elder on the stage frowned slightly. The World Group's Vice Group leader, Yi Qing Luo, 1 month ago in the Magic Beast Forest, snatched our group's mission item and even insulted us. In the end, we even lured out an even higher level Earth Mirage beast, killing 44 of our brothers. When Ji Tsangtian spoke, he seemed to be gritting his teeth as every single word came out from the slits of his teeth. Hidden in each word was a huge burden and anger. Hearing Ji Tsangtian's accusation, the other mercenary group's group leaders or mercenaries' faces instantly turned black as the gazes they shot towards Yi Qing Luo and the others turned even colder. Stealing mission items was a taboo in the mercenary world. Hearing this, Zhao Bo clenched his fists tightly, the expression on his face constantly changing. His initial astonishment turned into disbelief, and in the end he seemed to have been bitterly disappointed. Zhao Bo's eyes widened. The shame and anger that he had been suppressing in his chest made Zhao Bo restless. He was blind back then, which was why he entered the Blue Dragon mercenary group, treating Ji Tsongtian as his benefactor and brother. How could Ji Tsongtian turn black into white? Zhao Bo couldn't take it anymore. He took a step forward and was about to speak. His wrist was grasped by a fair and slender finger. Zhao Bo looked back. Chapter 777. Ji Tsongtian saw Zhao Bo taking a step forward and was just about to use the words which he had prepared to attack Zhao Bo. But he saw Zhao Bo suddenly retreating, not saying a single word. His expression suddenly turned extremely ugly. This was as though he had held in all his energy but the feeling of letting out a fart. In the eyes of the other mercenary groups, this action of standing out and retreating was indirectly, tacitly agreeing to Ji Tsongtian's words, because the World Group had no way to rebuke him. Seeing the other mercenary groups looking at the World Group in disdain, Lan Lingnua used a sobbing tone as she choked, 44 lives. 44 lives, ah. The World Group's mercenaries at such a young age, already disregarding human lives like grass, in future. She stopped there and didn't continue speaking. But how could the other mercenary groups not hear the meaning in Lan Lingnua's words? Now they were already so arrogant, disregarding human lives. If these young men and young ladies were to grow up and the World Group developed, wouldn't they massacre the entire mercenary association? After going through so much hardship and with the help of our brothers, we finally killed that Mirage beast. But these people from the World Group took the opportunity when we were exhausted from the fierce battle with the Mirage beast to forcefully take over the Mirage beast which we had killed. The last sentence was said by the more furious he got, as his face was filled with anger as it kept leaking outwards. One had to admit that Ji Tsongtian had arranged this story extremely well. Every single word and sentence was able to strike the other mercenary groups' hearts. As mercenary groups, what they hated the most was other mercenary groups taking advantage of when they were the most exhausted to forcefully take over their spoils of war. As compared to Ji Tsongtian, who said that Yi Qing Luo was poaching, forcefully taking over the mission item was even more infuriating. As long as they stirred up these mercenary groups' emotions, they would be able to easily pull these mercenary groups into their own camp. That Mirage beast was exchanged with my group's brother's blood, but it was so easily snatched away by the World Group. I originally wanted to forget about this matter. After all, you are a newly established mercenary group and a bunch of young men and young ladies. Our Celestial Phoenix Academy had always taught us to let people off whenever possible. Since the item had already been snatched away by you, at most we'll just take a detour when we meet you in future. But I really didn't expect that. You actually poached my team's capable general. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. His eyes widened and his veins bulged. Ever since the day Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was established, Zhao Bo and his gang had always been following me. Our 5 years of relationship, 5 years of love. Now, he was poached by the World Group. Ji Tsongtian clenched his fists tightly as he stared straight at the elder. Today, no matter what, I will seek an explanation for the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's brothers, and for those 44 brothers who died. The whole place was silent. After a while, the crowd began to clamor. Elder, such a heartless, unjust, and vicious mercenary group must be eliminated as soon as possible. To be so vicious at such a young age, such a bandit. Today, he actually had the face to lead the traitor he had poached and openly participate in a random mission. How shameless! We will jointly apply to the Mercenary Association to cancel the World Mercenary Group's establishment rights. Countless mercenary groups expressed their dissatisfaction and anger. Ji Tsangtian looked at everyone standing on his side as his eyes were filled with a delighted smile. The corners of his lips couldn't help but curled into an arc. Luckily Lan Lingnua discovered it in time as she pinched his arm fiercely. Chapter 778. Everyone was pointing fingers at them, and the entire place was filled with ridicule. If it was an ordinary mercenary group, they would definitely not be able to take on this kind of pressure. However, under the crowd's curses, the world group's 6 people remained calm as they sat lazily on their own seats. Only Xiao Bo stood beside Yi Qing Luo as his fists clenched tightly. His face was filled with unconcealable rage as he stared deadly at Ji Tsangtian with sparks flickering in his eyes. His calm demeanor infuriated the mercenary groups. A few tyrannical group leaders directly raised their fists as they charged over. A bunch of little brats! You're about to die and you still don't know how to repent. Let me teach you a good lesson. With one person taking the lead, the other mercenary groups also charged up. How dare you create trouble in the Mercenary Association? Emo Han Shang stood up abruptly as his delicate features were filled with dignity as he shouted out sharply. He stood upright as his gaze was like a torch as he coldly swept a few glances at those group leaders. This young patriarch wants to see how you're going to teach us a lesson. Those mercenary group leaders who were filled with righteous indignation stopped in their tracks. They felt injustice for Ji Tsangtian, but it was impossible for them to ruin their own futures. Young Patriarch Mo. Ji Tsangtian's brows creased. As the Mercenary Association's young patriarch, you'll bring shame to the Mercenary Association if you're together with this kind of notorious mercenary group. Emo Han Shang scoffed coldly as the disdain and cold ridicule in his eyes grew thicker. Blue Dragon Group leader must have forgotten that you mentioned forcefully taking over the mission item, forcefully taking over the Mirage Beast. This young patriarch is all present. The minute he said that, the entire Mercenary Association instantly fell into silence. The Mercenary Association's young patriarch was all present? The underlying meaning was that Emo Han Shang was also involved in forcefully taking over the mission item, forcefully taking over the spoils of war. Or did he have other intentions? Emo Han Shang shot a disdainful glance at Ji Tsangtian as he placed his hands behind his back and sneered. Since you finished weaving the story, then, listen to what I have to say next. Let me say it. Xiao Bo, who was standing by the side, had his muscles tensed up. He gritted his teeth fiercely as he made a difficult decision. I've been friends with Ji Tsangtian for 5 years, and I've established the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group for close to 4 years. Today, it's indeed time to settle this. Originally, Xiao Bo wasn't willing to mention about Ji Tsangtian's matters. What was in the past was in the past. Just take it as him preserving the last bit of face for Ji Tsangtian, preserving the beautiful memories of him and Ji Tsangtian supporting each other. But with Ji Tsangtian's overbearing manner, if he still didn't stand out and didn't speak up for the world group, because of him, the world group would be branded as robbers and poaching by Ji Tsangtian. Xiao Bo! Ji Tsangtian abruptly stood up as a fluster flashed past his eyes. After knowing each other for 5 years, Ji Tsangtian had more or less grasped Xiao Bo's character. Although Xiao Bo had become a mercenary of the world group, he would not return to the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. But at this critical moment, Xiao Bo, who valued loyalty the most, would not expose him for the sake of their past friendship. Ji Tsangtian had not expected Xiao Bo to actually stand out, apparently wanting to tell them everything. The elder sharply realized that when Xiao Bo spoke up for the world group, Ji Tsangtian was obviously feeling guilty. He immediately understood something. How could the mercenary group that their young master joined be such a heinous mercenary group? They were clearer than anyone else about their young master's foresight. With a chance to whitewash their young master's name openly, the elder waved his sleeves. Speak. If there's any lie, this elder will punish you severely. Chapter 779. Ji Tsongtian forcefully snatched the World Group's mission item, but was humiliated by the World Group. How could Ji Tsongtian disregard his own brothers for a woman, even sacrificing his brothers' lives to open up a path for him and Lanling Nuo? How did Ji Tsongtian hide in the World Group's enchantment after the high-leveled Mirage beasts appeared, not willing to help to deal with the high-leveled Mirage beasts, and even kept on insulting them? And so on and so forth. He used the simplest words to explain everything. As for the reason why I left Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. At this point, Xiao Bo's voice started to tremble as though he had recalled a painful scene. No one would have thought that 5 years of love would be no match for a woman's pillow talk. Because of Xiao Bo and the others' rudeness in the magical beast forest, Lanling Nuo developed a sense of disgust. After Lanling Nuo woke up, she persuaded Ji Tsongtian, confirming that they had the intention to betray Blue Dragon Group. Initially, Ji Tsongtian didn't believe it, but after all they had been brothers for many years, so he naturally understood him. But Lanling Nuo used the excuse of, since he saw her body, then he should be responsible for her, to start a cold war. Ji Tsongtian could only follow Lanling Nuo's intentions in order to gain the beauty's favor. Xiao Bo and more than 30 others were locked up. Lanling Nuo took the opportunity to announce to the public that these 30 over people wanted to betray the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group and had the intention to rebel. Over time, Ji Tsongtian also felt that Xiao Bo wanted to betray him. Xiao Bo and his brothers were naturally furious. They had sacrificed their lives for the Song Dragon Group, yet they ended up like this and even had to bear a bad name. How could these people, who valued loyalty so much, tolerate this? Naturally, they would think of ways to escape, to look for Ji Tsongtian for an explanation. He had not expected this kind of action to make Ji Tsongtian believe in Lanling Nuo's words even more, as he immediately killed the few brothers. Both sides fell out completely. Xiao Bo escaped from the Song Dragon Corps with the remaining 23 of his brothers. With no other choice, he thought of the World Group. You don't even trust the brother who has been with you for 5 years, and you choose to trust a woman who spreads lies to deceive people. In order to make that woman happy, you killed your own brother without any hesitation. You were ruthless and didn't show any mercy. Xiao Bo let out a bitter sneer. He did not want to recall the scene. They didn't want to believe that Ji Tsongtian had really chopped off the head of his brother, who had gone through thick and thin together. Going through thick and thin together for Lanling Nuo. He still remembered clearly that Ji Tsongtian stepped on his brother's head, his long sword pointing straight at his face, and the murderous intent in his eyes was so intense. When the truth was revealed, it made all the mercenary groups present stared at Ji Tsongtian in disbelief. He had not expected Ji Tsongtian to be such a deranged person. He was willing to kill his own brother for a woman? Everyone looked at Lanling Nuo again. If Yiqing Luo wasn't around, Lanling Nuo could indeed be considered as an exceptional beauty. But after Yiqing Luo's comparison, especially after listening to Xiao Bo's description, everyone's impression of Lanling Nuo was only left with a femme fatale and bewitching image. Ji Tsongtian fell onto the chair in terror as he opened his mouth to refute. No, I didn't. It's him, it's the World Group who intentionally tried to defame me. However, even he himself had no confidence in his rebuttal. How could he convince others? Lanling Nuo had always been a high and mighty princess who was the center of attention. No matter where she went, she would always enjoy envious gazes. Today she followed Ji Tsongtian to the Mercenary Association, just to enjoy the treatment of a mercenary group's madam, to make others envious. She had not expected that the situation had developed into such a situation. Everyone's gaze towards her was filled with disdain and disgust. Chapter 780. Ji Tsongtian's face was ashen as he stood there in a daze. Yes, he was certain that Xiao Bo would not betray him. He was certain that even if he killed Xiao Bo would absolutely not divulge anything which was disadvantageous to him. He was certain that Xiao Bo's departure wasn't because he wanted to betray him. Xiao Bo was just disappointed in him. Because of this, when that person looked for him, Ji Tsangtian agreed to that person's deal straightforwardly. But all his certainty at this moment seemed extremely laughable. He had not expected that after Xiao Bo left Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, he went to the World Group. He had not expected that in just half a month's time, Xiao Bo was completely bought over by the World Group, completely betraying him. Ji Tsangtian clenched his fists tightly as his venomous gaze stared fiercely at that enchanting lady who was still smiling in a relaxed manner. All of you are spouting nonsense. Xiao Bo, I've treated you well. We've been friends for 5 years, and you can't even compare to a Yiqing Luo. Ji Tsangtian struggled on his deathbed. He wanted to awaken Xiao Bo's conscience, awaken Xiao Bo's loyalty towards him. But when his pleading gaze met with Xiao Bo's eyes, all he saw was a piece of despair, like a lamp being extinguished. Xiao Bo's eyes had no spirit at all. It was as if all of his life had dried up along with him. This kind of drying up, Ji Tsangtian understood it clearly. That was Xiao Bo mourning the death of their 5 years of friendship. I believe everyone present here knows very clearly what the truth is. Yiqing Luo's cold voice was mixed with a bewitching smile. She half squinted her eyes as her lips curled upwards, making her look even more enchanting. The 3 elders pointed furiously at Ji Tsangtian as their voices were loud and clear. What a great Blue Dragon mercenary group, treating all of us as fools. You even dare to lie to this elder? Guards, bring this Ji Tsangtian, who is spouting nonsense, down to this elder. From today onwards, Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's rights to establish a mercenary group will be revoked. Ji and Lan family will forever be blacklisted by the Mercenary Association headquarters. The 3 elders' consecutive words caused a huge uproar at the scene. When the 3rd elder mentioned about Ji family and Lan family, Ji Tsangtian's expression instantly turned steely green. He stood up abruptly, his eyes filled with horror. No, impossible. That's not what he said. That's not the result. He said that after today, I will become a silver mercenary group. You can't do this to me. Ji Tsangtian's mutterings made Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly narrow. Her figure swayed slightly, and that petite figure of hers had already closed in on Ji Tsangtian. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were eerie as she frowned and stared at him coldly. Him? Who is it? Yiqing Luo. Are you in cahoots with him to intentionally mess with me? This was the only reason Ji Tsangtian could think of. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, if it wasn't for that person who used to upgrade to a silver plate mercenary group as a lure, how could he have fallen to such a state? You're still playing dumb? You're obviously following that person on purpose, deliberately making me. He didn't finish his words. Suddenly, a powerful, profound energy rushed over from afar. That profound qi was like a sharp blade, directly stabbing towards Ji Tsangtian's back, from the direction of his heart. This profound energy. Why did it have a kind of déjà vu feeling? However, the profound energy's momentum was extremely fast, not allowing Yiqing Luo to think too much. Yiqing Luo avoided it ingeniously as her body was like a black butterfly spreading its wings, speedily retreating. At the same time, Ji Tsangtian's reaction was swift. At the same time he turned around, he pushed Lan Ling Nua to one side. His other hand swiftly pulled the member who was sitting by the side, placing him horizontally in front of him. Chapter 781. Shrill screams resounded throughout the mercenary union. Fresh blood gushed out from that member's chest. That profound energy directly pierced through the group member's chest. Fresh blood splattered all over Ji Tsangtian. Ji Tsangtian casually threw the group member out as he bent over to pull Lan Ling Nua into his arms. He immediately released his profound qi, and with a tap of his toes, he had already turned into lightning as he sprinted towards the Mercenary Association's outer area. Before he left, he even turned his head and gave Yi Qing Luo a hateful stare. His eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. Chase them! How dare you kill someone in the mercenary guild? The elder immediately called out to the guards as they chased after Ji Tsangtian. For a moment, the entire mercenary guild fell into a strange atmosphere. No one had expected that someone would kill someone in the mercenary guild, and at this time, there were at least 100 high-level, profound practitioners present. Wasn't the murderer afraid of being caught? However, it was also because of the appearance of this murder that made all the mercenary groups completely believe in the world group's innocence. In order to survive, he did not hesitate to use his own brother to block in front of him. Even when they were escaping, they had to bring Lanling Nua along with them. This kind of person would definitely kill his own brother for the sake of a woman. With such a person as their leader, if it were them, they would also turn around and leave without hesitation. The farce ended just like that. The guards who secretly assassinated Ji Tsangtian had searched within 100 miles, but had not discovered any suspicious person. Whereas for Ji Tsangtian and Lanling Nua, they seemed to have disappeared and there was no trace of them at all. The elders dismissed those mercenary groups and started to investigate Ji Tsangtian's matter. The elders did not forget to blacklist the Ji and Lan families in the mercenary union headquarters. He even issued a kill order to track down Ji Tsangtian's whereabouts. Yi Qing Luo and the others walked out of the Mercenary Association and saw several tens of people standing not too far away, quietly waiting for them. Something happened. Mo Ying blinked her empty eyes and said faintly, "Just now there was killing intent. Did you see that?" Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as her vision swept across the surroundings. Mo Ying shook her head. The killing intent is too fast, and the strong power is also very fast. It was almost fleeting. She had no time to grasp the source of that powerful force. Yi Qing Luo didn't harbor any hope. A person that even Mo Ying couldn't sense. His strength was definitely beyond their imagination. Yi Qing Luo's gaze trembled slightly. That person, could he be the him that Ji Tsangtian mentioned? The one who used the Silver Plate mercenary group as a lure to make a deal with Ji Tsangtian? That's right. It must be the him that Ji Tsangtian mentioned. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so coincidentally made a move to silence Ji Tsangtian. That person's goal, it's her? This was absolutely not Yi Qing Luo's narcissism or persecutory delusion. Instead, it was a strong intuition, because the profound qi which pierced towards Ji Tsangtian was extremely familiar. But no matter how Yi Qing Luo's retentive memory and shocking memory tried to recall, she was unable to recall when and where she was. He had come into contact with the owner of this profound qi. "Goddess! Goddess!" A woman's charming voice suddenly came from behind. Dressed in a peach-colored short skirt, Peach smiled like a flower as she waved at Yi Qing Luo. She led a bunch of ladies who were as pretty as flowers and jade as she came right in front of Yi Qing Luo. "Goddess, what mission have you drawn? So mysterious?" Peach stared curiously at the mission scroll in Zhao Bo's hands. Among the random missions, it was the rarest random mission. Chapter 782. Yi Qing Luo pinched her brows as she regained her senses. Right now, the most important thing was to find a way to complete the random mission. Yan Zhan and Big Beard should have read the mission description in the scroll by now. They were probably going to have a headache. Invincible Battle Team and Blood Demon Team's mission is really unbearable. Peach patted on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder, indicating her to look towards a direction not too far away. The expressions of Yan Zhan, the bearded man, and the leader of the Blood Demon group were extremely unsightly. They seemed to be discussing something with the scroll in their hands. The leader of the Blood Demon group angrily swung the scroll, occasionally throwing it in Yan Zhan's direction. Then he couldn't hold it in any longer and slammed it on Big Beardy's face. Big Beardy took the mission scroll with both hands and stood respectfully at the side, letting the leader of the blood demons reprimand him. Yen Zhan stood at the side obediently. He was as arrogant as he was on the high platform, but now he was as cowardly as he was terrified. Qiao Jin's eyes lit up. Does Miss Tao know what the mission is? Peach raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. Of course. Don't forget what our 3,000 Peach Blossom group is good at. It was a group of informants who were responsible for gathering information. There are a total of 238 mercenary groups taking part in this random mission activity. Basically, other than you're the World Group's mission, which I don't know about, I roughly know about the other mercenary group's missions. Qiao Jin suddenly retracted the gold coin dart in his palm and gave a thumbs up to Tao Zi. Miss Tao is strong. I'm impressed. Peach giggled. His gaze landed on the ice-cold Yen Xiao Yi behind Qiao Jin. Her watery eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. A trace of craftiness flashed across Peach's eyes. She acted as if she did not notice Yen Xiaoyi's presence. Instead, she moved closer to Qiao Jin and revealed a charming smile. Qiao Jin, since we're all friends, there's no need to call me Miss anymore. Just call me Peach. Qiao Jin wasn't a bashful person. Since the lady had taken the initiative to say so, he naturally had to give the lady face. He immediately put on a smile and shouted, Peach. Peach beamed with delight. Yi Qingluo's brows rose as she discovered that Peach's vision wasn't placed on Qiao Jin. Instead, he glanced at Yen Xiao Yi from the corner of his eyes. This girl, what was he going to do? Although Yi Qingluo had sensed that Peach might have seen through Qiao Jin's outer appearance and had taken a fancy to his inner good looks. However, it felt like it was still lacking a little. Peach stood close to Qiao Jin. She controlled the distance between her and Qiao Jin very well. He didn't cross the line on purpose, but he wasn't rude either. It was more like it was on purpose. This thought made Yi Qingluo's heart suddenly trembled, as the gaze she shot the Peach was filled with probing. By the side of her ear, Qiao Jin's sniggering was heard, interrupting Yi Qingluo's thoughts. He stared at Yen Zhan and Big Beard, who were arguing with each other, and snickered. Peach, what mission did they get? Peach blinked her eyes and smiled slyly. If others want to know an answer from my mouth, they must pay the same price. But since it's you, Qiao Jin, who asked, I'll tell you for free. She crooked her finger and gestured for Qiao Jin to come closer. Qiao Jin didn't think too much about it. He laughed and lowered his head. The smile in Peach's eyes deepened. She slowly leaned over and whispered in his ear. The mission that they drew is... Chapter 783. Huh. Qiao Jin was stupefied. What did he mean by he was done for? Before he had time to ponder over the deeper meaning of these words, he felt a sharp pain at the back of his head. Pa! The sound of a palm brushing against skin rang out, extremely crisp and loud. Qiao Jin hugged his head, turning his head in a rage. Who? Who is it? Yen Xiao Yi retracted her hand, a pure and innocent smile hanging on her face. Her bright eyes shone with an intelligent luster, but the coldness in her eyes made one shudder. Sorry, my hand slipped. Looking at the sweet smile on Yen Xiao Yi's face, all of Qiao Jin's reprimands and curses were stuck in his throat. He opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Their eyes met for a long time. Just as Qiao Jin was about to open his mouth to speak, Yen Xiao Yi had already curled the corners of her mouth and turned to walk towards the exit of the Mercenary Association. Yen. Qiao Jin frowned and wanted to chase after him, but after taking a few steps he stopped. His brows were tightly knitted together. He felt lost and extremely puzzled. Peach took in the changes in Qiao Jin's expression. The mischievous smile on her face deepened. The Invincible Guild's rare high-level mission is to collect 2 bamboo tubes of swamp vampire worms from the Spirit Swamp. The Spirit Illusion Swamp was mostly frequented by Silver Plate mercenary groups. Only the elite mercenaries of the Silver Plate mercenary group, or at least the first or second group of mercenaries, would have the confidence to complete this mission. The Spirit Illusion Swamp was most famous for the swamp blood-sucking worms. The swamp blood-sucking worm was a worm that hid in the swamp. This insect was very small. If it was alone, it wouldn't be aggressive. However, swamp blood-sucking worms usually moved in groups of more than 100. Although they were small, they were densely packed. Once a mercenary fell into the swamp, he would be instantly covered by these blood-sucking worms, and then all the blood in his body would be sucked away. It could be said that there was no mercenary that wasn't afraid of the swamp blood-sucking worms. Asking Yen Zhan's mercenary group to catch 2 bamboo tubes of swamp blood-sucking worms, he reckoned that before he could even touch the blood-sucking worms, he would be attacked by them. No wonder Yen Zhan's face was ashen, as if he had nothing to live for. If they were the ones who drew this mission, they would probably have nothing left to live for. The Blood Demon Group's rare high-level mission is to head to the Chaos Crack and kill 10 Chaos Beasts. You must also preserve their internal organs. Peach covered her mouth and laughed so hard that she couldn't stand straight. No wonder the reward is 80 honor points. This was an impossible mission. These 80 points are just for show. Yi Qing Luo agreed with this sentence very much. The primal chaos slit was the crack between the 4 continents. In modern terms, it was another plane in a parallel world. That plane was in a state of chaos. This is an extremely dangerous place. The beasts in the primal chaos realm were much more ferocious than those in the Nirvana realm. If ordinary people entered the primal chaos realm, they would be affected by the primal chaos, not to mention killing a beast of chaos and preserving its internal organs. This task was too difficult for the Blood Demon Mercenary Corps. One was the Spirit Illusion Swamp. One was the primal chaos realm. His luck was simply unparalleled. No matter how high their rewards were, they could only watch helplessly as the rewards passed them by. Of course, there was another way. Although the Blood Demon Group and Ever Victorious Group had agreed beforehand that they would only send out 98 people to challenge the World Group. But during the process of the challenge, the Mercenary Association wouldn't continue to monitor the process of the mission. Yen Zhan could totally let all the members move together. There was a better way, and that was Chapter 784. However, could the Gorfine Group really be so fearless as to help Yen Zhan obtain 50 honor points for free? Yi Qing Luo didn't believe it. Otherwise, the leader of the Blood Demon Group would not be holding this mission scroll and angrily scolding Yen Zhan and Big Beard. Every man for himself, and heaven and earth destroy him. Not to mention an ambitious regiment commander. If this was any other time, it would be fine if he couldn't complete this mission. But now, their Blood Demon Group had also participated in the competition with the World Group. If they lost to a Bronze Mercenary Group, a newly established mercenary group made up of a bunch of kids, what face would they have left in the mercenary world? Now, the World Group's chance of victory has increased to 50%. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she smiled lightly. Her half-squinted eyes curved into an enchanting arc, blossoming with a captivating charm. Tang Ziqing looked at Zhao Bo. What's our mission? Everyone turned to look at Zhang Xian. Compared to the random missions of other mercenary groups, they were more concerned about the content of their random mission. Zhao Bo took a look at Long Yunzhan and Yi Qing Luo, and seeing that the both of them had no intention to stop him, he then untied the golden silk ribbon on the scroll. Just as she was about to open the scroll, Yi Qing Luo smiled at Peach. "Peach, I have something to talk to you in private." Everyone was taken aback. Zhao Bo's hand paused in the middle of opening the scroll. Peach was engrossed in the scroll in Zhao Bo's hands when she suddenly heard Yi Qing Luo's words, and her eyes flashed slightly. Then, Her lips curled into a mischievous smile. Okay. There was no complaint or dissatisfaction on Peach's face. She still had a faint smile on her face, and when her watery eyes gazed at Yi Qing Luo, it was still clear without any impurities. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she stretched out her hand. Peach placed her hand in Yi Qing Luo's palm, and the two of them walked forward together. The two of them walked in the opposite direction of the mercenary union. After walking for about half an incense stick's time, there was no one else around. Yi Qing Luo's cold voice suddenly rang. Are you blaming me? I don't blame you, Peach answered simply. If I were you, I would have done the same. This amiable and adorable lass, Yi Qing Luo, couldn't help but chuckled as she stretched out her hand and caressed her head. Thank you for understanding my feelings. He didn't want Peach to know the contents of the random mission because he was suspicious of Peach. On the contrary, she really liked this smart and obedient girl. The reason why he didn't let Peach know was because of Peach's identity, the leader of 3,000 peach blossoms. As the leader of a regiment, there were too many things he had to do. Yi Qing Luo could not risk her own team. But I do have something to discuss with you. Yi Qing Luo stopped in her tracks. A sly smile appeared in Peach's bright eyes. You want to tell me that Miss Yen likes Xiao Jin, right? Not expecting Peach to be so straightforward, Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned and immediately smiled. Not only does Xiao Yi like Jin Zi, I think you can also tell that Jin Zi towards Xiao Yi is also. I know. Peach was still smiling, and the dimples on her cheeks were very attractive. That kind of smile, sweet and calm, but it made people feel a trace of sadness, a fleeting sadness. While Yi Qing Luo was thinking about this feeling, Peach continued with a smile. In the mercenary union, when I saw Xiao Jin being so obedient and gentle towards Miss Yen, I could tell. Yes, Xiao Jin and Yen Xiao, you were attracted to each other and liked each other deeply. Then you. Chapter 785. I admit I liked Xiao Jin. Peach calmly curled her lips as she faced Yi Qing Luo, opened her arms, and slowly retreated, as though she was hugging the sun. But this kind of liking is only limited to my feelings towards a man. To put it more accurately, this feeling is admiration. She gave an extremely satisfied smile as her tone was relaxed. My liking towards him doesn't have that kind of impulse which makes me want to get him, to make him my man. These words made the expression on Yi Qing Luo's face change slightly. After a long time, the luster in her eyes revealed some gentleness. I don't know what good fortune Xiao Jin had accumulated in his past life to actually have the honor to make you feel moved by him. Peach wasn't pretentious as she gave a sweet smile. Yes, to be able to make me feel moved. It is indeed his good fortune in his past life. This kind of intelligent and unpretentious girl, Yi Qing Luo had always liked it. Moreover, Peach's lips curled up craftily as she blinked her eyes and smiled. Those two slow and arrogant people, if I don't add fuel to the fire, when will they be able to recognize their own hearts? This was indeed a serious question. If it was based on the progress of those two people, probably her and D.M.O. Xian's child was already a bystander, and the two of them had yet to talk about being happily together. Cough, cough, cough. Why did she think of giving birth to a child with D.M.O. Xian? Yi Qing Luo rubbed her face, trying her best to ease the redness on her face. But unexpectedly, just as she was about to put down her arms, Peach had already hooked onto her arm. I originally didn't intend to bring the Peach Blossom 3,000 to take part in the random mission, but I heard that the World Group would be coming, so I came. Today, to be able to pluck up the courage to talk to you, even if the first heartfelt relationship had ended before it even started, I still feel that it's worth it. Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo to speak, the little girl released her arm. Her delicate little face was filled with adoration and love towards Yi Qing Luo. Goddess, I still need to lead the group to complete the mission, so I won't disturb you any further. See you at the academy." Saying that, Peach had already turned around. The peach-colored dress was like a blooming peach blossom, drifting away with the wind. Looking at Peach's departing figure, Yi-Ching Luo sighed slightly. This girl was too obedient, so obedient that it made one's heart ache. When Yi-Ching Luo returned to the World Group's location, the few of them were huddled together, frowning deeply. Yan Xiaoyi had also returned and was discussing something with Xiao Bo. The more they talked, the tighter her brows knitted together. On seeing Yi-Ching Luo's return, the few of them immediately welcomed her. Xiao Jin looked around. "Where's the peach?" Yi-Ching Luo almost choked on her saliva as she subconsciously looked towards Yan Xiaoyi. At this moment, she wanted to correct Peach's words. How was Xiao Jin slow? He was obviously blind. There must be something wrong with his brain. If it wasn't because she knew Xiao Jin's character, she wouldn't have been able to help him. She was afraid that now she was going to misunderstand. Was Xiao Jin unable to leave Peach for a while? Indeed, Yan Xiaoyi's originally extremely gloomy face turned even darker. Her slender fingers curled up one by one, as if she was restraining the anger in her heart. Ahem. She still has a quest to complete, so she'll be leaving first. Yi-Ching Luo suddenly felt that the atmosphere was exceptionally heavy and immediately wittily changed the topic. "What are you guys discussing? Why do you look so terrible?" The topic was successfully changed. Chapter 786. On the mission scroll, a few words were clearly marked. Complex grade, experience training mission. Complex grade? Complex. Mixed. Level. Yi-Ching Luo's hand shook as she took over the mission scroll and blinked her eyes. She didn't see it wrongly. It was really the words complex grade. Even if it was a complex grade experience training mission, it was equivalent to a high grade rare mission. Complex grade missions were usually accepted by gold medal mercenary groups. Even a silver plate elite mercenary group might not necessarily accept a complex level mission. Yi-Ching Luo's lips twitched a few times. Wasn't their group's development a little too fast? On the first day of establishment, they had already accepted a high-grade rare mission, which surpassed the high-grade rare mission, and almost lost their lives. Now, another complex grade mission had arrived. The mission content is to head towards Ling King's tomb and bring the King Corpse Guard's coffin back to the Mercenary Association. Xiao Bo explained the mission in a concise and comprehensive manner. Ling King's tomb. Yi-Ching Luo had heard of this place before. Ling King was the war god from 1,000 years ago. He was sent to Nirvana Realm by the upper three realms to protect Nirvana Realm and maintain peace in Nirvana Realm. In the end, in order to protect Nirvana Realm, he died in that incomparable battle 1,000 years ago. Nirvana Realm's 4 great sects paid their respects to Ling King and built a tomb for him, which was located in the West Continent and Chaotic Realm, which was adjacent to each other. Because of Ling King's esteemed status, the 4 great sects patriarchs worked together to borrow a large portion of Death God Castle's arrays and mechanisms to protect Ling King's tomb. It could be said that Ling King's tomb was a place which numerous grave robbers wanted to infiltrate. But now that 1,000 years had passed, there was no news of any grave robber successfully infiltrating or coming out after infiltrating. Because of this, Ling King's tomb became more and more legendary. Some even said that Ling King wasn't dead at all. He was in Ling King's tomb, silently guarding Nirvana Realm. Some also said that it was the war god's soul, stopping all intruders who wanted to blaspheme his name. In the mission, the King Corpse Guard in front of Ling King's tomb was also the target which everyone talked about. This Corpse King was once a corpse puppet created by the 4 sect masters from tens of thousands of corpses that had died violent deaths. Then he combined the powers of the 4 great sect masters to set up a formation for the corpse puppets. If someone tried to invade the main tomb, this corpse puppet would disregard everything and take the intruder's life. Then, it would merge the intruder's corpse chi and become a part of the corpse puppet. Therefore, this corpse puppet was known as the Guardian Corpse King. Their mission was to carry this corpse puppet's coffin out of the tomb of the Ling King and send it to the mercenary guild. This was undoubtedly courting death. It was no wonder that the youths were filled with melancholy. There was no way he could complete this mission. This mission was actually accepted by us. Emo Han Shang gave a bitter smile as his lips twitched. This mission had already been listed into the Mercenary Association's mission program over a month ago, but for an entire month, not a single mercenary group was willing to accept this mission. Of course, no mercenary group would accept it. Even a gold-ranked mercenary group would not take such a risk. Emo Han Shang continued to smile bitterly. Our group's luck, there's no one else like it. This was the last chance for the random mission. If they didn't complete it, it would be considered as giving up, and another 100 honor points would be deducted. Giving up on that low-level training mission had already consumed 100 honor points. The world group's current honor points were only left with 90-plus points, and there was no way for them to give up on this mission. Chapter 787. Leader, Vice Leader, what should we do? Xiao Bo asked with an ugly expression. This was the first time he was doing a mission with a group ever since he joined the world group. He didn't expect to receive such a mission. As a veteran mercenary, Xiao Bo had a good understanding of the situation and danger levels of the various places in the Nirvana realm. The tomb of the Ling King was definitely a place they could not step into. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly as she exchanged glances with Long Yunjian, reading the same thoughts from his eyes. Let's give it a try. How would we know if we don't try? Yi Qing Luo rolled up the scroll and stuffed it back into Xiao Bo's arms. If you try, there might not be any hope. But if you don't try, there's definitely no hope at all. If it doesn't work, we'll retreat. Regardless of the danger, since this mission had landed in the world group's hands, she should have led the world group to give it her all and not shake her head and advise everyone to give up before they had even done anything. This was not her style. This was also not the style of the world group. The young mercenaries replied in unison, yes. Yi Qing Luo's existence was their hope, their miracle. Even if it was a mountain of knives or a sea of fire, as long as Yi Qing Luo nodded her head, they would march forward bravely without any fear, because they knew, no matter how dangerous it was ahead, Yi Qing Luo would travel together with them. Furthermore, he would do everything in his power to ensure their safety. Xiao Bo and the others were slightly taken aback, as though he had not expected that Yi Qing Luo would choose to head towards King Ling's tomb, as though she had not expected that these youngsters, after hearing about the dangers of King Ling's tomb, would still unwaveringly agree with Yi Qing Luo's words. Then the 20 or so old mercenaries grinned and laughed. Wasn't this the feeling they were pursuing? Yi Qing Luo was indeed a lady filled with hope. Yi Qing Luo naturally wouldn't head over rashly due to the dangers of Ling King's tomb. What's more, she still had to go back at night to give Ziling acupuncture treatment. Because of this, she had everyone return to the old mansion first, then had Xiao Jin and Yan Xiao Yi go to the 3,000 peach blossoms and spend some money to obtain all the information about the Ling King's tomb. After all, this was a place where one's life was at stake. One had to be careful. The group of people returned to the old house in a mighty manner. When he walked in to ask around, he saw Holy Pirate holding a shiny gold bottle and carefully wiping it. He looked very sincere. Grandpa Pirate, what are you doing? Kitty Lee blinked her bright eyes. She looked at Holy Pirate with confusion. As he spoke, his small body quickly leaped over. Xiao Qiao's hand was already on Holy Pirate's shoulder. Bang! There was a loud noise as Holy Pirate's hand shook. The golden bottle in his hand fell to the ground and made a loud sound. My golden bottle! Holy Pirate knelt on the ground. His hands trembled as he tried to pick up the golden bottle, but his hands were shaking so much that he could not pick up the golden bottle. Holy Pirate's wrinkled face was full of sorrow. It was as if the thing he treasured the most had fallen to the ground and shattered. Kitty Lee was frightened by Stolen Saint's appearance. It was not that she was curious, but Holy Pirate's sincere attitude toward the golden bottle made her nervous. The mercenaries around them were also shocked. Only Xiao Bo and the others acted as if they were used to it. They picked up their teapots and went to the back hall to brew tea. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she walked directly to the front of Holy Pirate. She bent down and picked up the golden bottle. Holy Pirate's vision was glued onto the golden bottle as he followed Yi Qing Luo's gaze. Chapter 788. It's made of gold. It won't break. What are you crying for? Yi Qing Luo casually placed the golden bottle on the table. Holy Pirate put on a long face. Because it is a gold bottle, it should be kept safe. How can you be contaminated by the dust of the mortal world? Ah! This was the first time Yi Qing Luo met someone who regarded gold as his life. He finally understood why Holy Pirate would walk the path of Holy Pirate. He was a person who was obsessed with gold. The fastest way to collect all the gold in the world was to steal. Didn't you go to the mercenary union to accept the mission? Why did you come back? God Thief hugged the golden bottle, which Yi Qing Luo had casually placed back into his arms, as though he was hugging a baby who was not even a month old, as he asked in disdain. If they had not suddenly returned, his golden vase would not have fallen to the ground. This hall, although it was called hall, was more like a meeting hall. After God Thief had modified it, it was extremely spacious. It could accommodate at least 200 people. Yi Qing Luo invited the other young mercenaries to sit down. She casually sat down next to Holy Pirate and supported her head with one arm. She lazily said, I encountered a difficult mission. I have to investigate the general situation of the mission before I can act. She pointed at the teenagers around her. Here, I'll leave these people in your care today. We'll depart tomorrow. Troublesome. God Thief raised his brows as he squinted at Yi Qing Luo with interest as he put down the golden bottle in his hand. You also have times when you're in a sticky situation. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. I'm also human. She was only a low-level, profound practitioner, and her current strength wasn't strong to the point where she could summon clouds and rain with a flip of her hand. So why hadn't there been times when she was in trouble? Could it be that in Holy Pirate's eyes she had become a god? As though he had seen through Yi Qing Luo's thoughts, God Thief sat down next to her. If you're not a Grand Luo immortal, then how are you going to save me from Death God Castle's underground prison? Death God Castle? Xiao Bo was stunned. You're really God Pirate? At first, when he heard Holy Pirate shout, he thought he was worshipping Holy Pirate. However, when he heard about Death God Castle, he thought about Holy Pirate's skills. Xiao Bo seemed to have understood something. In his memory, the name of Saint Thief had fallen in Death God Castle for a total of 10 years. He then linked it to the news that the World Group had received a rare mission, and after completing it, they became a bronze plate mercenary group. Then, this mission was definitely related to Death God Castle. And in the process of doing the task, he also brought out Holy Pirate? Suddenly, Xiao Bo was filled with confidence for the quest in the tomb of the Ling King. Holy Pirate frowned. He pointed at his nouveau riche outfit and said, Of course, I am the real Holy Pirate. How could I be fake? The mercenaries present had all heard of the legend of Holy Pirate. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that the nouveau riche old man in front of him was completely different from how the legends described him. Faced with everyone's doubtful gazes, Holy Pirate snorted arrogantly. Tell me, what is the mission this time? Everyone was taken aback. Yi Qing Luo's cully-long eyelashes fluttered as she reacted. Are you going to help us? Holy Pirate had white hair on his temples. He raised his eyebrows and said, Since you saved me, I naturally have to repay you. I, holy pirate, have to repay kindness. Yi Qing Luo wasn't bashful at all. Right now, DMO Xian had returned to the imperial palace to settle some matters. Something which required DMO Xian to return personally to settle would definitely be tricky. At this juncture, Yi Qing Luo couldn't trouble DMO Xian. The information and contents of the Ling King's tomb could only rely on the information provided by the 3,000 peach blossoms. If she had Holy Pirate's help, not only would the mission completion rate increase. Chapter 789. Our mission this time is to go to the tomb of the Ling King. When he said the last 4 words, the holy thief's pupils suddenly dilated, and his expression revealed slight astonishment. Yi Qing Luo naturally noticed the changes in God Thief's expression. Her heart sank and her brows furrowed. God Thief seemed to be familiar with the tomb of the Ling King. Moreover, something that he feared must have happened in the tomb of the Ling King. Young lady, your luck. After some time, God Thief seemed to have noticed his own absent-mindedness as his gaze fixed onto Yi Qing Luo once again, as a sliver of helplessness surfaced on his face. He propped himself up and shook his head. Last month it was Death God Castle. This month it's the tomb of King Ling. Then next month, wouldn't it be the upper realm? Yi Qing Luo coughed lightly. It was hard to say whether his luck was good or heaven-defying. Even the rare random mission scroll was taken away by her. It had been more than a month since anyone had accepted the complex quest, and now it was randomly assigned to her random quest scroll. It could only be said that the heavens had decided for her to take on this mission. The tomb of the Tomb King is not a simple tomb, Holy Pirate said with a sigh. I am sure you have heard about it. It is the Tomb King of the God of War from 1,000 years ago. He did not expect it to be the tomb of the Ling King. It was no wonder that this lass would find it troublesome. Even if he were to personally take action 10 years ago, he might not be able to escape unscathed. Yi Qing Luo brought along such a large bunch of immature children to head towards the Ling King's tomb, and that would be even more dangerous. The mausoleum of the mausoleum of the mausoleum is backed by a mountain, and the flood dragon is holding down the formation. The inside of the mausoleum is filled with formations and traps, and there are also the Corpse King and other corpse puppets guarding it. To you, this is an impossible task. God Thief paused, and his expression became grave. Little girl, are you sure you want to bring so many people to the tomb of King Ling? We still have to try. Yi Qing Luo nodded. How could he know if it was something he had never done before? She would do everything in her power to lead the team away from danger. If an accident happened, she would not regret it. If he didn't even have a bit of adventurous spirit, how could he be qualified to be a mercenary? Mercenaries lived their lives with their heads tied to their waistbands. Mercenaries lived in danger every day. When their lives were on the line, they would gain enlightenment and advance. God Thief looked at the sparkle in Yi Qing Luo's eyes as his wrinkled face revealed an affectionate smile. He chuckled and shook his head slowly. He seemed helpless, but he also seemed to have made up his mind. I, the Holy Pirate, am a man of my word. When will you depart? I will go with you, latest by tomorrow. Yi Qing Luo thought for a moment and set a time. After giving Ziling acupuncture tonight, she should be able to get out of bed tomorrow and do the simplest of rehabilitation operations. Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin should be able to bring back the information about the Ling King's tomb tonight. It was about time to depart tomorrow. Holy Pirate nodded. He stretched his body and said, It has been years since I last moved my old bones. Tomorrow I will be able to stretch them out. Don't torment your old bones. Yi Qing Luo stood up. I'll make a trip back to Three Springs Sect first and come back tonight. Three Springs Sect. Yi Qing Luo had just returned to the courtyard when she heard Hong Mei mention that old Madame Ye's memorial tablet had already been sent to the courtyard by old Madame Yi early in the morning. Hong Mei had already prepared a small-scale ancestral hall in the courtyard and had invited the Taoist to perform the ritual, placing Madame Ye's memorial tablet in the courtyard. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her expression remained calm. She didn't say that she was going to thank old Madame, but directly went to the small ancestral hall. After staying in the ancestral hall for 1 hour, Yi Qing Luo then came out. Chapter 790. Seventh Miss, old Matron Wang, is here. Hong Mei went up and lowered her voice. Old Matron Wang, old Madame's attendant. Yi Qing Luo wasn't surprised. Old Madame's spies were everywhere in and out of 3 Springs sect residence. She didn't intentionally hide her return. Old Madame had a favor to ask of her, so naturally she would keep an eye on her movements. Yi Qing Luo nodded and didn't ask what old Madame Wang had said. Instead, she asked about Ziling's condition. Hong Mei was feeling anxious, but on seeing Yi Qing Luo's composure, she could only go along with Yi Qing Luo's words. Ziling is an obedient lady and is recovering very well. Did old Madame look for Ziling? Hong Mei shook her head. Old Madame has been chanting scriptures in the nunnery today, and third Madame is accompanying old Madame to copy the scriptures. As old Madame was devoted to Buddhism, a nunnery was set up in old Madame's courtyard. Old Madame's favorite place was the nunnery. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly. Old Madame must have taken her mother's memorial tablet and recalled how she had harmed her mother that year. Hence she felt guilty and wanted to go to the nunnery to ease her mood. When she was young, she had done too many evil deeds. When she was old, even if she was devoted to Buddha and was full of Buddhist teachings, it was unable to cover up her bloody hands. Let's go to old Madame. Yi Qing Luo concealed the chill in her eyes as she said calmly. Hong Mei heaved a sigh of relief and immediately reminded. Sovereign has also received the news and rushed back. He's now in Eldest Young Miss Courtyard. Eldest Young Miss? Yi Qing Qian? What were Yi Tianquang and old Madame doing in Yi Qing Qian's courtyard? Second Prince sent Eldest Young Miss back. Hong Mei's gaze swept the surroundings and immediately went forward to support Yi Qing Luo respectfully as she whispered into her ear. I heard that when Second Prince sent Eldest Young Miss back, his expression was extremely terrible, and Eldest Young Miss's face was filled with tears. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows in interest. Lung Feng Ying actually sent Yi Qing Qian back. Did it mean that he had given up on Yi Qing Qian? He had yet to recoup his losses from Yi Qing Qian. Was Lung Feng Ying really willing to give up? Let's go to eldest sister's courtyard to take a look. To be able to force Yi Tianquang back, Yi Qing Qian's matter this time was not small at all. Other than Hong Mei, Yi Qing Luo couldn't find another trustworthy person in the courtyard. Naturally, he left Hong Mei in the courtyard. She went straight to Yi Qing Jian's courtyard. Just as he reached the door, he saw old Maid Wang standing there. Apparently, the matter of her coming to Yi Qing Qian's courtyard had already been notified to old Grand Madam. Seventh Young Miss, you're finally back. Old Madam has been nagging about you for the entire day. Old Madam Wang's lips curled into a smile as she walked up and held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Her attitude represented her ancestors' attitude. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. From the looks of it, Yi Qing Qian's white lotus skill had failed this time round. The old ancestor's heart was now on her side. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply to her, so old Madam Wang continued to nag on about how concerned this old madam was towards her. Not too long later, the both of them arrived at Yi Qing Qian's room. Standing outside the door not too far away, they could hear Yi Qing Qian sobbing as well as Yi Tianquang's furious curses. Occasionally, old Grand Madam's icy cold voice would be heard. Qianer, the child in your womb. Whose is it? You must tell this old one clearly. It's Second Prince's. Second Prince's. Yi Qing Qian whimpered in agony. Old Grand Madam, don't you dote on me the most? Don't you trust me the most? Why is it that I've told you so many times? You still don't believe me? Chapter 791. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows in interest as her slender fingers caressed her smooth lower jaw. It turned out that old grandmadam had found out about Yi Qingqian's pregnancy. Thinking about it, she said that Yi Qingqian was pregnant in front of thousands of people at the academy's entrance, and guessed the father of this child. This news naturally spread like wildfire. Moreover, Yi Qingqian had not only lost her chastity in front of the old minister and second prince, but in front of thousands of people. Everyone saw it clearly. How could old madam, who had always cherished her reputation, tolerate this? Otherwise, old madam would not have expressed goodwill to her time and time again. She even personally brought her mother's memorial tablet over. Vile spawn! Vile spawn! Yi Tianquang's furious voice was extremely loud. How could my Yi family raise such a shameless girl like you? This child is already 2 months old? How could it be second prince's? Yi Qingqian only sobbed softly. No matter what, this child, Yi Qingqian, could only push it to Lung Fengying. Otherwise, not to mention that this child could not be kept. Even her life would probably be killed by Yi Tianquang in order to wash away the Yi family's humiliation. Eldest young miss, this matter is not a small matter. If this reaches the monarch, it will not be easy to clean up. Lady Baiming's voice was gentle. Yi Tianquang heard that and immediately flew into a rage as he quickly walked to the bedside and grabbed Yi Qingqian's clothes. Vile spawn! Tell me quickly, whose child is in your womb? Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. This Lady Baiming was indeed an intelligent lady. She looked as though she was worried for the Yi family, but in actual fact, she had grasped Yi Tianquang's thoughts. Yi Tianquang was most concerned about his current status. How would he dare to offend the current monarch? If it was eldest prince Lung Fenghua's child, Yi Tianquang could still directly hand the child over to the monarch and on account of the child, send Yi Qingqian to King Ping's fief. But if this child was Lung Fengying's, which meant that after Yi Qingqian snatched her sister's fiancé, she also hooked up with second prince at the same time. This was the royal family scandal. Right now, in the entire royal family, only second prince Lung Fengying was able to assume the position of crown prince. If this scandal were to spread, if Lung Fengying really became the crown prince, not only would the civil and military officials not be able to accept it, even the commoners would not be able to accept such a crown prince as their future monarch. This could easily cause panic in the Western continent. If the monarch were to find out about this, he would definitely punish the Yi clan and push all the blame onto the Yi clan in order to protect the royal family's reputation. As for Yi Qingqian's thoughts, Yi Qing Luo was very clear about it. He admitted that the child was Lung Fenghua's. Yi Qingqian would definitely be sent to King Ping's fief. Lung Fenghua's personality after he had fallen this time, he had completely darkened. If he were to see Yi Qingqian, this woman who had betrayed him, how would he treat her? He was afraid that Yi Qingqian's life would be worse than death. As for the child in her belly, would Lung Fenghua believe that it was his? On the contrary, they could only grab onto Lung Fengying this life-saving straw tightly in order to have a chance of survival. If Lung Fengying wanted to give up this chess piece of his, Yi Qingqian would definitely rather die in glory than live in disgrace, insisting that this child was Lung Fengying's. Lung Fengying could forget about becoming the crown prince properly. Yi Qingqian had probably never thought that there would be a day where she would end up in such a state. If she wanted to blame, she could only blame her cheap mouth. Lung Fengying had probably never thought that he had schemed for so many years, just for a chance to climb up, but now his most fatal weakness was held by a woman. If she wanted to blame, she could only blame him for being greedy. Chapter 792. Yi Qing Luo's chuckle attracted the attention of the people in the room. "Old Seven, you're back. Grandma will accompany you for dinner in a while." Old Grandmadam's stern face softened when she saw Yi Qing Luo. Yi Tianquang's face was ashen. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's eyes, although not as gentle as old Grandmadam's, there was no longer the disgust and hatred in the past. He just nodded lightly. "It's good that you're back. Go to the hall and wait. The family will have a good meal later." Their gentle words were indeed a great stimulus to the delicate woman lying on the bed. Since when did the people in the family try to please her like this? Even when she sacrificed everything to hook up with Lung Fenghua and obediently followed all their arrangements. Old Grandmadam had never tried to please her. Her father had never tried to please her. Yi Qing Luo didn't do anything. No, Yi Qing Luo ruined her. It was Yi Qing Luo who ruined her. But she received old Grandmadam and Lord Father's flattery and gentleness? Why? Why was she the one who was abandoned? Yi Qing Qian's hateful gaze was like a poisonous snake, entangling Yi Qing Luo. She hated Yi Qing Luo. She hated Yi Qing Luo for taking everything away from her. Hated Yi Qing Luo for destroying everything. If she really died, before she died, she must bring Yi Qing Luo to hell. How could Yi Qing Luo not feel the strong hatred? Yi Qing Luo calmly and indifferently met Yi Qing Qian's hateful gaze. The smile on her lips deepened. Eldest sister has been abandoned by the second prince. She didn't care about the presence of old Grandmadam and Yi Tianquang around and slowly walked to the bedside. Old Grandmadam and Yi Tianquang didn't stop her. When Yi Qing Luo came to the courtyard, they put on a show of completely abandoning Yi Qing Qian. Wasn't it for Yi Qing Luo to see? They naturally wouldn't let Yi Qing Luo leave like this. Yi Qing Qian trembled and shrank back. Her eyes were full of fear. "You, what do you want to do?" Yi Qing Luo just stopped by the bedside, slightly leaned over, half squinted her charming eyes, narrow and long and charming. "What can I do? I just want to take a good look at Big Sister, who looks like a stray dog." She chuckled, her charming eyes roaming, unable to conceal the ridicule. Big Sister always thought that she was the real chess player. Now, as an abandoned chess piece, what does Big Sister think? "You." Yi Qing Qian's eyes widened, filled with hatred. "Yi Qing, fall. Eldest sister is not only abandoned by the second prince." Yi Qing Luo's body slowly moved closer to Yi Qing Qian's ear. The chilly voice was like a chilly wind, following Yi Qing Qian's eardrums, straight into her heart. Even the Yi family has given up on eldest sister. Yi Qing Qian was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Suddenly, Yi Qing Qian's entire face turned pale as she clutched her chest with one hand and pressed her abdomen with the other. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows raised slightly as she revealed a treacherous sneer. In the blink of an eye, the silhouette beside Yi Qing Qian's ear was already standing at the door of the room. At the same time, Yi Qing Qian spurted out a mouthful of blood. In that blood, there was actually a piece of minced meat. She was so angry that she spat out the blood in her heart. Yi Qing Qian lay weakly on the bed, her resentful and hateful gaze locked on Yi Qing Luo. "Yi Qing Luo, even if I become a ghost, I will not let you off." She tore her throat, sharp and resentful, like a curse. It went straight into Yi Qing Luo's eardrums. Chapter 793. However, standing at the door, the cursed main character glanced at her with a faint smile. "Elder sister, you can't do anything to me as a human, let alone as a ghost." After speaking, Yi Qing Luo no longer cared about Yi Qing Qian's unwillingness and hatred. She turned around and left Yi Qing Qian's room. For a woman like Yi Qing Qian, her heart and worldview had long lost the existence of the three views. To Yi Qing Qian, she only felt that everything that she had done was right and proper, and those who disobeyed her and stopped her were not tolerated by heaven and earth. Yi Qing Qian was jealous of Yi Qing Luo's position as the first wife's daughter. jealous that Yi Qing Luo could be engaged to Ling Fenghua and become the future crown princess. Therefore, she humiliated Yi Qing Luo, framed her, and even snatched Ling Fenghua to prove that she was stronger than the first wife's daughter. But Yi Qing Qian had never thought about it. Was the first wife's daughter what Yi Qing Luo wanted? Moreover, even if Yi Qing Luo was the first wife's daughter, wasn't Yi Qing Luo's life more miserable than a servant's? At least Yi Qing Qian had a mother who loved her dearly and a father who loved her. Even the cold and sinister old ancestor loved her. What else could she not be satisfied with? It was just Yi Qing Qian's own greed. But she had to put all the blame on herself. All of this, Yi Qing Qian only had herself to blame and no one else. In the hall, the table was full of delicacies. Yi Qing Luo lazily leaned on the soft chair and slowly ate the food. On the opposite side, the three people looked at each other. After a while, Yi Tianquang couldn't help but put down the chopsticks in his hand and carefully looked at Yi Qing Luo. Luo! You must be tired during these days in the academy. Father knows the academy is on vacation and specially asked for a few days to accompany you at home. Yi Qing Luo's action of eating didn't have the slightest pause. She just lazily lifted her eyelids and glanced at Yi Tianquang. This glance made Yi Tianquang tremble all over. An inexplicable chill ran down his spine. Yi Tianquang rubbed his eyes and looked carefully again. Yi Qing Luo had already lowered her head and didn't look at him again. Wherever you want to go to play, Father will accompany you. Yi Tianquang took a deep breath, calmed down the shock in his heart, and maintained the kind expression on his face. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an arc of ridicule as she lazily raised her arm to support half of her face. Her smile was extremely lazy, but it also added a bit of liveliness. Her tone was extremely casual, which made her seem even more like a hooligan. Father, shouldn't you reprimand me for making eldest sister's pregnancy known to the world like before? Are you reprimanding me for stripping big sister's clothes in public and ruining the Three Springs sex reputation? The smile on Yi Tianquang's face froze. Old Madam stared at Yi Qing Luo with a chilly gaze. Both of their hearts trembled violently. When Yi Qing Luo saw that, she giggled. Looks like father and old ancestor still blame me. No, that's not it. Yi Tianquang abruptly stood up, his face somewhat embarrassed. In the past, it was all father's fault. Father listened to Madame Yuchi. That jealous woman's words. Listen to your eldest sister's slanderous words. Thousands of mistakes. It's all father's fault. Although his words were unceasingly admitting his wrongs and almost fawning, but his tone was extremely cold, extremely dry. As the saying goes, how can a father and daughter have overnight enmity? Old Madam timely opened her mouth. We're all one family. What's in the past is in the past. In the future, whether it's me or your father, we'll all stand on your side. His words sounded even better than a song. Stand by her side? Chapter 794. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo remained silent for a long time, old Grandmadam continued. Old 7, I heard that you were assigned to the Devil class in the Heavenly Academy, the class that is known as Waste. Yi Qing Luo's fingers dangled the chopsticks and looked at old Grandmadam with a faint smile. Yes. On the day you go to the Heavenly Academy, Grandma will go with you and ask the dean to assign you to the low profound class. Old Grandmadam smiled gently. No matter what, you are the daughter of the Yi family and your strength is not bad. How can you stay in the same class with that group of waste? As for Yi Qing Luo's matter in the Heavenly Academy, in order to protect her own position, she naturally would not reveal a word to the Yi family. Yi Feng, you also felt that the Yi family was too biased towards his sister and felt unfair for his sister. How could he talk to these elders? In the eyes of the Yi family, Yi Qing Luo was regarded as waste because of her poor performance, so she was assigned to the waste class. Old Grandmadam is right. Yi Tianquang leaned towards Yi Qingluo's direction with the expression of a doting father. You are my Yi Tianquang's daughter. No matter how poor your aptitude is, how low your profound grade is, how incompetent your ability is, you can still enter the low, profound class. Obviously, he had forgotten how Yi Qingluo entered the Heavenly Academy. He had also forgotten that he himself had suffered a loss in the hands of Yi Qingluo. You, is in the low, profound class too, right? Yi Tianquang seemed to have found a reason to belittle Yi Qingluo. His mood lightened up a little. The smile between his eyebrows also dyed with some sincerity. Don't worry, although your aptitude is not as good as you, father and old grandmadam will do our best to let you be in the same class as you Look, this tone, it sounds more like charity than charity, right? As if Yi Qingluo was able to enter the Heavenly Academy, it was also because of Yi Tianquang. The bamboo chopsticks in Yi Qingluo's hand, along with the swaying, left her fingers and fell on the table. Coincidentally, the bamboo chopsticks fell into the soup, splashing drops of soup onto Yi Tianquang's face. Boiling soup, just a few drops, it didn't hurt. But that kind of greasy feeling rolled down his face drop by drop. His nose was full of greasy soup smell. Yi Tianquang's complexion immediately darkened, like charcoal. Just as he was about to slam the table and stand up to berate Yi Qingluo for not knowing what's good for her, he heard an elegant laughter coming from outside the door. Father's words are wrong. Your words are wrong. After that, a refined young man in a bamboo-colored robe walked over slowly with a warm appearance. His footsteps were casual as he walked to the dining table and pulled out a chair as he sat down beside Yi Qingluo. When did you return? Seeing the man, Yi Tianquang's face immediately revealed a happy expression. Even the elder ancestor, who had always been sinister and taciturn, revealed joy from the bottom of his heart. This man was none other than the second young master of the Yi clan, Yi Fengru, who was known as the steward of the Yi clan. I just came back. Yi Fengru poured himself a cup of tea and took a sip. The smile on his face didn't diminish. I didn't expect that, as soon as I returned, I would see Lord Father making fun of seventh younger sister. At the mention of Yi Qingluo, the happiness on Yi Tianquang's face froze. He lifted his sleeves and wiped his face, wiping away that greasy touch. Making fun? Yi Fengru was slightly startled and immediately looked at Yi Qingluo meaningfully. Seventh younger sister, didn't tell Lord Father, an old ancestor, about your own deeds? Yi Qingluo's slender brows slightly raised as she met his pair of warm eyes. Her eyes were covered with a faint layer of deep thought. Chapter 795. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up slightly. The smile on her face was the kind of innocence and sweetness that someone of her age should have. Second brother. Her sweet voice was crisp and pleasing to the ear. Yi Tianquang and old grandmadam were stunned. One must know that ever since Yi Qingluo returned, they had been thinking of ways and means to please her, but they didn't get any good words from her. Yi Fengru smiled more elegantly, seventh sister. Last time, Yi Fengyu had been deliberately humiliated by Madame Yuqi and had knelt to the point where his legs were almost crippled. Yi Fengru had appeared and said a few words to help Yi Fengyu, giving him the best opportunity for treatment, no matter what purpose Yi Fengru had. He helped her, that was the truth. If there were no other accidents, Yi Qingluo would choose the right time to repay him. Second brother, what did you just say about seventh brother? The great ancestor frowned slightly. He kept thinking about what Yi Fengru had just said. It seemed to be hinting at something to Yi Qingluo. Yi Fengru slowly leaned back, looking calm and smiling. Old grandmadam and father wants seventh sister to enter Earth Profound Class 1? Old grandmadam nodded. Devil class is not suitable. She wanted to say not suitable for the Yi family's reputation, but when she saw Yi Qing Luo's smiling face, she immediately changed her words. Devil class is not suitable for seventh sister. Even if her strength is not enough, low profound class 1 is more than enough. Uft! Yi Feng Ru laughed loudly. His face, which was as gentle as jade, appeared even more carefree and casual. Old Grandmadam and Yi Tianquang had long been used to his character and didn't say anything. Yi Feng Ru waved the fan in his hand. His laughter became more wanton. Seventh sister doesn't even look at the class of gods, not to mention low profound class 1. When these words came out, old Grandmadam and Yi Tianquang were stunned. What did these words mean? Not even looking at the class of gods? Did Yi Qing Luo have the qualifications to enter the class of gods? Seventh younger sister is an influential figure in the Heavenly Academy. 2 of the best instructors in the academy had jointly written a petition to the dean to allow seventh younger sister to enter the class of gods. Speaking of this, Yi Fengru turned his head and took a deep look at Yi Qing Luo, who was squinting her eyes and staring at him, as he laughed even louder. Director also had the intention to send seventh sister to the class of gods, but was rejected by seventh sister. With a pum sound, the chair Yi Tianquang was sitting on fell to the ground. Yi Tianquang looked at Yi Qing Luo incredulously, his face full of astonishment. The elder ancestor couldn't believe what he was hearing. However, these words came from Yi Fengru's mouth. These words came from the mouth of their second grandson, whom they had always trusted and loved. It had to be 100% truth. Yi Qing Luo, class of gods? And he even refused? Since when did Yi Qing Luo have such a powerful ability? Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes slowly surfaced a layer of frost. He listened to Yi Fengru tell him everything about his school. She was surprised, but on second thought she felt relieved. Yi Fengru's aptitude would definitely be able to enter the Heavenly Academy. It should be intermediate class 2 or high class students. What made her curious was that she had never heard of Yi Fengru's name in the academy. It was reasonable to say that this second brother of hers, whether it was his background, appearance, or ability, should be outstanding in the eyes of the students. Facing Yi Qing Luo's curious gaze, Yi Fengru only curled his lips, revealing a warm smile. Yi Qing Luo's slender eyebrows gently knitted. Chapter 796. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. Her eyes widened as she stood up and pointed at Yi Fengru. It's you. Yes, it's him. In the eyes of the academy students, Devil Class was the symbol of waste. As the class monitor of Intermediate Profound Class 2, how could Xia Yan suddenly help Shangguan Luli to challenge Devil Class? If it wasn't for someone's intentional guidance, Xia Yan would absolutely look down on Devil Class. And when Xia Yan left the Brother Ru that he kept mumbling about, wasn't it referring to Yi Fengru, which meant Xia Yan's challenge to Devil Class was under Yi Fengru's orders. But why? Why did Yi Fengru do this? I'm curious, a talented person like Seventh Sister, why is she willing to stay in Devil Class, which is known as waste? Yi Fengru rubbed his chin as he smiled warmly. The truth has proven that my guess is right. Even the class of gods is unable to attract Seventh Sister to leave. It can be seen that Devil Class must have some extraordinary magical power. This man's sensitivity was a little too strong. All the mysteries, I think. The interclass competition, 7 months later, will be revealed. Yi Fengru smiled as his fingers that were tapping on the table became lighter. This second brother of hers was not an ordinary person. Seeing Yi Tianquang and old madam wanting to ask her about the class of gods, Yi Qing Luo got up directly and left the hall without saying a word. At night, Yi Qing Luo gave Ziling acupuncture treatment and confirmed that Ziling's leg was healing at an extremely fast speed before she was relieved. She passed Hong Mei 3 days' worth of medicinal herbs and reminded Zi Ling that she could get off the bed tomorrow and do her recovery on her own. Finally, she passed Zi Ling a profound qi mental cultivation method and sword manual and rushed over to the old mansion. The old mansion was brightly lit and 90 over mercenaries were sitting in the hall, discussing something solemnly. Yi Qing Luo had just reached the hall when Long Yunjian handed over a stack of neatly arranged information. Yi Qing Luo received it and sat down beside Long Yunjian. She lowered her head and casually flipped through the information. It was all about the background information of the tomb, as well as some mechanisms and arrays outside the tomb. The first piece of information made Yi Qing Luo take a few more glances. The delicate handwriting was obviously written by Peach. The ink was still wet, so he must have written it not long ago. The general content was, other than the World group, there was another mercenary group who had also asked the 3,000 peach blossoms for information on King Ling's tomb. He heard that he had also accepted a mission in the Ling King's tomb, so he would probably bump into Yi Qing Luo and the others. This wasn't the main thing that attracted Yi Qing Luo's attention. Instead, that mercenary corps was a gold medal mercenary corps. Gold medal. This also meant that this mercenary group was powerful and had a high status in the mercenary world. When they set out, there was basically no mission that they could not complete. If their mission was the same as that gold medal mercenary group's, they would definitely not be able to compete with the gold mercenary group. Vice leader, if it's a gold-ranked mercenary group, we have no chance of winning. Tong Ziqing frowned as she looked at Yi Qing Luo. Just now, they had been discussing this issue. It was not a wise move to snatch something from a gold medal mercenary group. Moreover, it was very likely that he would incur the wrath of the gold-ranked mercenary group. By then, it would definitely affect the world group's development. Because of this, they had been waiting for Yi Qing Luo's idea. Chapter 797. The main hall fell into a state of silence. Quite a number of mercenaries' faces surfaced a look of shame. Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly. The motive of establishing a mercenary group isn't for the mission, but to train everyone better. She propped up her head as her expression didn't have much fluctuation of emotions. The real motive of heading to King Ling's tomb is to train you on how to deal with any situation, and not to complete the so-called mission. Of course, if you're able to complete the mission, then that's the best. If you're not able to complete it, but if you're able to learn something from the mission, then it's worth it. After Yi Qing Luo finished her words, her half-squinted eyes slowly swept past those mercenaries who lowered their heads in silence. The entire main hall's atmosphere was extremely cold. After a long while, Yi Qing Luo softened her tone as she spoke word by word. I want you to remember one point. The motive of us doing missions isn't to complete the mission. But in the process of completing the mission, we're training ourselves, tempering ourselves, and obtaining improvement. This is the most important prerequisite for us to complete the mission. Yi Qing Luo didn't wish for her own bunch of brothers to be like the other mercenary groups, to become mission machines. To tell the truth, towards these mercenary groups' missions, whether they were able to complete it or not, wasn't especially important to Yi Qing Luo. What she cared about was these brothers in the process of completing the mission. What did they learn and what did they improve? The young mercenaries slowly raised their heads, and after looking at Yi Qing Luo for some time, they nodded their heads vigorously as they responded in unison, "Yes." Zhao Bo and the others who were standing by the side also had a smile in their eyes. Indeed, their choice wasn't wrong. The World Group was indeed different from the other groups. The World Group perhaps wouldn't be the best developed group, but it was the most heartwarming group. This was a home, a real home. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as the expression on her face became extremely gentle. Everyone rest early. We'll be setting off early tomorrow morning, and we must use our best spirit to receive tomorrow's challenge. Yes, Vice Group Leader. The young mercenaries stood upright. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at Long Yunjian. Qiao Jin and the others, as she stood up and looked at the brothers. I'll remind you one last time. No matter what happens tomorrow, just act according to your capabilities. The World Group doesn't need people who fight with their lives on the line, but we need people who are obedient. The young mercenaries nodded. After the youths dispersed, only Long Yunjian, Qiao Jin, and the others remained in the entire hall. What do you think about the Ling King's tomb mission? Long Yunjian asked expressionlessly. Yi Qingluo had specially asked them to stay behind, so there must be something regarding the mission that she wanted to tell them. Yi Qingluo pinched her eyebrows and put the stack of information back into her hands. What kind of team is that gold-ranked mercenary group? Did Peach mention it? Their gazes all focused on Qiao Jin. However, he saw that Qiao Jin's expression was a little unnatural. His gaze suddenly met Long Yunjian's, and then he subconsciously looked away. When it finally landed on Yan Xiao-yi snorted softly and looked away. Qiao Jin opened his mouth. He pursed his lips tightly and lowered his eyes, not saying a word. Yi Qingluo looked suspiciously at the both of them. Recalling Peach's sly smile, she couldn't help but gave a light cough. Could it be, when the two of them went to the 3,000 Peach Blossom group to buy information about the Ling King's tomb, they met Peach, and then something unspeakable happened? Chapter 798. It's the Death God Mercenary Group. Qiao Jin took some time before he opened his mouth weakly. Finishing his words, his vision shot towards Yan Xiaoyi's direction as his thin lips tightened. Yi Qingluo temporarily kept her curiosity and gossip as she lowered her eyelids and looked at the information in her hands. Death God Mercenary Group. She had heard of this name before. It should be said that she had seen this mercenary group's name on the Mercenary Association's honor board. Gold-ranked Mercenary Association, which was ranked third on the honor board. The number of over 9,000 people, and all of them were Nirvana Realms elites. Among them, there were close to 500 alchemists and 500 armament masters. This was a real large-scale powerhouse. Death God Mercenary Group's group leader's name was the Sky Mystic Overlord, who had the highest hopes in Nirvana Realm. Zhongzheng Sihan, the eldest young master of the Zhongzheng family, who was the leader of the East Continent's cultivators, was a genius child since young, and when he grew up, he did not disappoint. Now that he was just 25 years old, his name had already spread far and wide, and he had even established his own force. After this mercenary group's name was revealed, even Long Yunjian's expression changed slightly. Following Death God Mercenary Group to Ling King's tomb, wouldn't it reduce the danger? Yi Qingluo looked at their solemn expressions as she consoled them. Death God Mercenary Group won't put us in their eyes. On the contrary, we can borrow their strength to go deeper into the tomb. Oh, everyone broke out in cold sweat. Were they sure that it would be so smooth? Yi Qingluo suddenly put on a serious expression. I'm very clear about the dangers in Ling King's tomb. Even if God Thief follows along, I'm not assured so. No matter what happens, I hope you can protect everyone, and if the situation is not right, immediately evacuate. Long Yunjian frowned as he gazed deeply at her. You intend to go alone? Not necessarily. Yi Qingluo interrupted his words. I won't joke around with my own life. If it was really dangerous, it might harm their brothers' lives, so the World Group must evacuate. After that, she would observe the situation before deciding if she should go alone. Perhaps she could follow the Death God Mercenary Group to the place where the Corpse King was guarded. Whether she could complete the mission or not, it was up to fate. The few of them exchanged glances, but didn't say a word. Yi Qingluo didn't open her mouth as she placed all her attention on the information in her hands, memorizing all the information regarding Ling King's tomb into her mind. The next day, the group went to the Ling King's tomb. It was not even 5 o'clock in the morning when the group set off. They walked until noon before they arrived at the tomb of the Ling King. The location of the Ling King's tomb was extremely remote, at the edge of the primal chaos realm. If he was the slightest bit careless, it was very likely that he would miss the location of the Ling King's tomb and directly enter the chaotic realm. It was all because of Yi Qing Luo, who had memorized all the information about the Ling King's tomb. Following the outer perimeter map provided by Peach, the group of them stood safely at the entrance of the Ling King's tomb. Just as Holy Pirate had said, there were mountains surrounding them and a flood dragon outside. It was extremely dangerous. Even though they were standing outside the tomb, they could still feel the bone-chilling aura slowly approaching them. It made people shiver continuously, and goosebumps appeared on their skin. Around the entrance, there were still water droplets dripping from the stalactites. The dripping sound of water added a tinge of ear-piercing and treacherous to this appalling atmosphere. Some of the youngsters were already trembling slightly as their expressions turned steely green. Zhao Bo, who was standing in front, looked at the entrance of the tomb as his brows creased. Group leader, vice group leader, are we waiting for the Death God mercenary group or going in first?